a lot about the benefit system, and it looks like that's where the cuts are going to come.
Particularly if you're disabled.
Particularly if you're vulnerable.
Labour, they've done the old people, they've dispensed with them, they're now coming for the disabled.
Yeah, they're now after the disabled.
Great party, great governments, great socialists.
Really Labour.
Yeah, going for the vulnerable. Thank you very much, it's wonderful. Listen, you better stick with Petrie, sounds like a great show. She's going to take you through to 1 a.m. In the meantime, I will be back tomorrow night with another fantastic edition of The Political Asylum. You have been a literally amazing audience. I have been literally mediocre. And I will be back, as I say, tomorrow, same time, same place. You better be there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. It is going to be a busy show and I need your voices on this because I'm pretty sure you'll have a lot to say about it. Coming up at midnight in the hour, the 1 hour that is yours. It's all yours. There's no guests, there's nothing. It's the only hour that is stripped of guests, stripped of everything, just so you can talk back. So please do get involved. Call us, get on the board, and we'll call you back. Now, what I want to talk to you about at midnight is quite pertinent to what's going on at the moment, especially with Rachel Reeves doing her speech today, justifying her budget and justifying what she's doing. But she has told all the departments that they have to make brutal cuts. Now, one of the areas is the benefit system. It's a nightmare. It is completely and utterly broken. It's £100 billion a year problem, and that is in disability payments, top-ups to universal credit, and into PIP and all of that. The Chancellor's spiralling debt interest bill continues to create headlines, but one issue getting more attention in Whitehall is how to stem the rising cost of health and disability benefits. So not unemployment benefit. This is about health and disability benefits. And when you see the numbers and the projected increases in these numbers, it's easy to see why a government would want to tackle them. Quite extraordinary numbers. Disability benefit claims among work-age people are expected to rise by 250,000 each year to 2030, while just over 4.2 million adults will be claiming personal independence payments over the same time frame, up from over 3 million today. Now, there are a number of people claiming universal credit for health reasons. That's also expected to climb from 2.1 million this year to 3.5 million by the end of the decade. And please bear in mind, the end of the decade is 5 years away, right? It sounds like it's a long way away, but we're 2025 now. So that is a massive, huge increase, a very fast increase. And the budget, the Office for Budget Responsibility now believes the total spending on health-related sickness benefits is on course to surpass 100 billion by 2030, with payments accounting for 3.4% of the entire economy. It is not sustainable. So what is going to happen? Well, look, who knows? We don't know yet. She's bringing forward her spring statement to talk about benefits and what's going to happen to them. And look, they're not afraid, let's put it in their language, to make the difficult decisions. They've already stolen that money from old age pensioners, the winter fuel allowance, for millions and millions of them anyway. So it seems that, that I'm afraid you're next. I mean, I don't think it'll be very fast. I don't want you to panic now. They're not going to suddenly do it overnight. But there are talks about either reducing the payments, so reducing the actual pounds in your pocket, or making it harder to get those benefits in the first place. So I need you to help me with this. I don't know about, my brother's on PIP. He's extremely unwell, but he's on PIP. He'll never work again, and that sustains him, right? And I'm grateful to the system that does that. And there will be people like my brother who are going to always be absent now from the workforce. But there are others, the government things, that are swinging the lead. So they think that you're putting it on, that it's not real. So what are they going to do? I want to know from you, how difficult is it already to get that fit note? Which makes no sense to me. It should be a sick note. But anyway, they're now called fit notes. Is it really difficult to get it now? Imagine that in the future being more difficult in the future. That's one of the ideas they're going for. So I need your help on this, because although my brother's got it, that was a very simple case. He has dementia at the age of 55, and that's it, right? So there was no if, buts, or maybes on that. So, but I'd like to know for you, I know the form was difficult, blimey, crikey. But anyway, give me a call. I want to hear your views on this, because you might prefer that everybody else pays more tax. You know, who should be paying the tax? So it's tax or cuts. That's what it looks like in our very near future. Which would you prefer? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. And do bear in mind that working people in this country are hitting the highest tax they've ever paid. So to ask anybody to pay any more tax is going to be a really difficult call. You can message me as well, 87222. Put the word talk up front and it comes through to me here in the studio. So that's coming up at midnight. Before that, Kevin Schofield, I'm thrilled to say, will be here to go through tomorrow's newspapers. Van Connor will be joining us to talk about some films. One of them aptly called A Real Pain, Rachel Reeves, pay attention. And we're going to be talking to Burton Kelso, my brother from another mother, who's a chief tech expert at Integral in Kansas City in the USA. So all of that is to come. But first, let's address why we are in this problem, in this state in the first place. You'll remember that enormous budget that Rachel Reeves trotted out to us in October, telling us that this was she's not going to do anything like this again, which is probably a mistake to make. But is this her fault? That's the question. Everyone's blaming her. I don't know. I suspect some of it is, but some of it will also be global uncertainty, I imagine, with Donald Trump and his tariffs. So we had to ask the expert on this, really, Vicky Price, Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economics and Business Research. Vicky, it is a pleasure, as ever, to talk to you on things like this.
Thank you. Very nice talking to you as well this evening.
Vicky, look, that is the first question. Who is responsible for the mess that we are in financially, with the cost of borrowing going up, potentially wiping out that fiscal headroom that Reeves had got by changing her rules, although she said she wouldn't, in order to give her a bit more money? Or is it globally everybody nervous about Trump, or something else going on?
Well, it's a mix of things, and there's something else going on, of course, is that there are loads and loads of global uncertainties, geopolitics, whatever is happening right now in terms of trying to get a ceasefire in Gaza, what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, what's been happening to energy prices, oil prices, gas prices. All these things can be thrown into this. And in the past, of course, we had COVID, and then we had the energy crisis, all requiring a lot of extra spending to take place by loads of governments. So we are in a situation where, if you look across the globe, governments have borrowed an awful lot of money during that quite difficult period. And it's quite difficult now that we have come out of it up to a point to take a real grip over government finances and satisfy the markets that whatever it is that we're doing right now, whether it's us or the US, is actually sustainable in the longer term. And I think it is global from that point of view, but there are some specific issues which are affecting us. And that is that there is no doubt, if you look at the figures that came out by the Office of Budget Responsibility when the budget was put together, what we are talking about here is that the government wants to spend, mainly in order to improve public services, £70 billion per annum more than what had been anticipated in the March 2024 budget, the last one by the Conservative government. And in order to finance that, it is taxing the country by an extra 40 billion a year, and is also borrowing an extra 30 billion a year. So these are huge sums, which have in many ways not only spooked the markets, but also worried businesses in terms of that tax impact and what it would mean, and also worried everyone really about whether some of the changes that the government needs to make on public services in particular are in fact doable, and whether they're just being a little bit too optimistic about this. And with it, the growth forecasts have been pretty poor. And with poor growth forecasts, and if you look at the actuality, which is basically no growth at all in the second half of 2024 in the UK, the chances of being able to raise, just from normal income tax and VAT, because people go out and spend and all that sort of stuff, enough revenues to satisfy the markets that actually the longer term is sustainable, becomes a lot more difficult. So that's the problem that we've got. But you mentioned Trump and so on. There is the added concern that Trump is going to be having tariffs to put against goods imported into the US on everybody, including us. That is going to affect our economy, but also it will raise inflation, particularly in the US. So everyone's been thinking that actually inflation generally will be higher. They've been pushing interest rates up. And the result of that is, of course, if you look at some of the growth forecasts right now, with such high interest rates, you are in trouble, and we're all in trouble. So it's a mix of things, but unfortunately it leaves us with a problem.
And just so that this is understood, when it comes to selling government debt, on the bond market. The appetite has decreased because there's been so much debt being sold globally that in order to entice people to buy that debt, we have to put the yield up, which is the interest rate. And that's the problem, is that if somebody's going to buy a bond now, they want to make a heck of a lot of money out of it. And that's why we're seeing the cost of borrowing going up.
Yes, up to a point. The other reason is that the central banks have not been reducing rates sufficiently fast to encourage growth in the economy, but also they're very concerned about inflation generally. And if the central bank rates stay high, as they are in the UK and in the US, then the longer term rates, because the central banks determine the short-term rate, the short-term interest rate, the longer-term rate, which is linked, of course, as you rightly said, to the bonds and the government borrowing, also adjusts accordingly. So in other words, you can't see all those bond yields in isolation. So if the very short interest rate goes up, then generally the longer term, if it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, which is what the government borrows, also adjust upwards. And generally the markets have decided we're going to have higher inflation, higher short-term interest rates by the central bank, and therefore they expect a better return themselves on government bonds because inflation will be higher. They need a bigger return, obviously, because you know, in real terms,
I
that's
mean,
basically
you want some bang for your buck, basically, don't you? If you're going to take on somebody else's debt. So when we look at where the government is right now, and there's been much talk about that she only had 9 billion left, and these interest rates now have wiped that out to about 1 billion, if that. And yet this government is still making promises like the extra NHS stuff that was announced by Keir Starmer a week or so ago. That has not been costed. All these hubs and all these lovely things. Is that just stupid of them to keep making these promises when they don't actually have the money there to do anything like it?
We're assuming that they have costed that. And one of the reasons why this extra spending is happening is because most of it is going into the National Health Service. So there is an element of current spending, such to keep the things going, the hubs you perhaps mentioned, and there is an element, of course, of capital spending. So you put new equipment in, new scanners, all that sort of stuff. This was part of the calculation for the National Health Service, but that was the calculation for just the next 2 years. We haven't had a spending review that says, after the 2 years, we've allocated a lot of extra money. Where is the rest of the money going to be going into? And that's what lots of government departments are working on now. So although we're quite clear that some of the stuff that Keir Starmer is talking about can be done over the next 2 years and there's funding for it, the real question is what happens later.
Beyond that.
And we're going to hear a little bit, we're going to hear a little bit more about that in the summer. That was the idea. But now that Rachel Reeves is under pressure to have some more clarity as to what she's going to be doing with all this spending, whether actually she needs to maybe cut even the first 2 years where there was going to be this big increase, we may get that spending review happen a little bit earlier. And some of those things will be cut, those hubs, whatever it is that you've heard being promised. We may not get some of those in the end.
But that's the thing, isn't it, Vicky? How daft do they think we are when they're forcing us to spend more money with the interest of the inflationary pressures? They're taking more money off us in tax or off our employer, or who's charging it back to us when we shop and things like that, and not have anything to show for it. I mean, that is the real pressure on Labour now, that they are in very much danger when she talks to us in the spring of saying, look, I've taken all that cash off you, but we can't do anything. That is a disaster, isn't it?
It would be if that is what happens. But of course, one of the main reasons why people voted for Labour and why they're in government right now is because people got fed up with the deterioration in public services that we saw. So that was accepted, that a certain amount of money that would be raised would be spent on improving those services. And I think that's really, really important. So if there isn't that improvement...
if those improvements don't happen...
If they don't happen, then they will be in real trouble. But what they had been hoping for, and up to a point they're right, is that we would be seeing the outcome of the fact that the consumer has more money in their pocket. They had big reductions in taxes with the 2 cuts that happened in the national insurance contributions for employees, not the stuff which is now being imposed on employers, but on employees by Jeremy Hunt. 2% in January and another 2% in April, which gave back to the economy. This is the black hole that Rachel Reeves was talking about. 20 billion, 10 billion each time. So people have got a reduction in their tax. This is the people, the working people, if you like, that Stammer likes to talk about and Rachel Reeves like to talk about. Also, we have had increases in real earnings month after month for almost 2 years now, because inflation's been coming down and wages have been higher than that. In addition, we have the increase in minimum wage, which is quite substantial, way above inflation, which is taking effect in April. A bit more money in the pockets. The pensioners getting the triple lock and really doing quite well out of that. So the idea was, I think, at the back of their mind that, yes, maybe, we are putting a bit of extra tax on employers, but there is going to be the demand, because the employees, or the man on the street and woman on the street, is going to feel richer. The real problem is that those people are not feeling at all secure, because they've been encouraged now to think, my God, things aren't going to be particularly good in the future, and this is huge black
by
hole.
Labour.
Is it going to be?
Yeah, they talked it down. They talked us all down.
Yes.
So that we would stomach these tax rises, and then now they're trying to go, no, it's going to be great, and we're human beings, not robots. So have they really made a rod for their own back with that? They certainly have with business.
I think if you look at what's happened to both consumer and business confidence, they have generally gone down. They improved a little bit after the elections. And the main reason for that was that there was a big majority, maybe more certainty ahead, in the sense that we wouldn't have the political instability we had before. We wouldn't be changing cabinet ministers all the time. But look at this, we're already changing ministers quite fast, because of all sorts of things that are happening. But at least there will be some greater stability than what we saw before. No mini budgets of the sort. The Office of Budget Responsibility will be involved. So all sorts of promises have been made on that. Forgive me for this.
Just very quickly, if we can we avoid either more tax increases or these cuts that I'm going to be talking about later? It appears that we're in a bottleneck now, and one or the other will have to happen. And if it were down to you, which would you go for? Is a tax increase better, or is a cut better?
Well, what she should really have done, I'm afraid, is increase income tax or reverse some of those cuts on national insurance contributions for employees that Jeremy Hunt did. But of course, politically, it was unacceptable. The real problem is now that she's got herself into a corner, increasing taxes, say, in a March statement of sorts, and a fiscal event, is going to be politically incredibly difficult. So I'm afraid she has very little choice. Cutting spending is going to have to be. The real problem, if she cuts spending, is that if you look at the forecast for growth for this year, which is supposed to be quite good, just under 2%, if you believe what the Office of Budget Responsibility has, it's all due to increased public spending. If you cut that, then you have very, very little growth. So when you look at whether people will be satisfied in the future, if they have voted, as we hear in the States as well and everywhere else in the US, on the basis of the economy. So if the economy was a thing that decided them to vote against the Conservatives and in favor of Labour, and the economy then doesn't perform, then there's a political problem, which is very serious. And that's why people are already beginning to say, do we need another change in terms of who may in the future be the Chancellor?
I was just going to finish off by asking you, yes or no, will she still be in her position at the next general election?
I don't know, but what we have seen is that Keir Starmer is quite ruthless. If somebody becomes the story and that story takes away from what he wants to achieve, and we've already seen it with 2 ministers who've gone, both women, then he would do what he thinks would help the party. So question mark, really.
Oh, I wish we could have a side bet, Vicky, but you're far too grown up. You're far too grown up for that. Vicky Price, it's so lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economics and Business Research. Got to take a quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. So there you go, Vicky Price's take on all of this. And it is... Look, I have literally no sympathy for this government, none at all. But it is a very tricky situation that they're in now. Not all of their own making, but certainly, in my view, a lot of it in terms of talking the country down and saying it's all disastrous and, you know, look at the mess we were left in. And now they're trying to go, oh, but already the sun is out and it's brighter and it's so much better. And, of course, none of us are buying it. In fact, none of us are buying anything. And that's the problem with the economy at the moment, that we're nervous consumers now. We're not buying the big things. We're not spending our money like that, particularly if you've got a mortgage, because you have no idea which way that's going to go. Because if inflation goes up, we know what this Bank of England does. We know what Bailey does. He then puts interest rates up. So a lot of people are very nervous who hold mortgages at the moment, and so they're not spending, right? Rachel Reeves, on the other hand, thinks that she's done an absolutely blinding job, brilliant job as the first female Chancellor, and is standing by her budgetary decisions. She's also saying she's standing by her fiscal rules. So is Keir Starmer. He keeps saying it, blah, 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 blah. And that fiscal rule, in case you're wondering, is not to over-borrow. Right? It's to stick with a certain... There are actually 5 levers that can be pulled. I won't get too boring about it, but there are 5 levers that you can pull, and depending on which one you pull, that you're allowed to pull, it gives you a certain amount of money. Well, she chose one that was different to the one she said she was going to choose because it gave her a bit more money. I literally, it's boring. But that's basically what's happened, and she has run out of that money. And they're promising all this spending, aren't they? I mean, I wonder what the announcement will be next Monday. Ooh, can't wait. Keir Starmer rolling up his sleeves and leaning collegiately on the podium and whispering to us because we trust him. So God knows what else they're going to come up with in terms of what they're going to spend this imaginary money on. As Vicky said, inflation is going to stay stubborn and it is not going to go down anytime soon. And if we have the problem with America, with tariffs and things like that, then all bets are literally off. So they have to come back to us for the money. We know that. We're the money tree, aren't we? They don't have any money. They take our money. So if they've run out of the money we've already given them, then what next? Well, I tell you what next. It's either a rise in taxes, and as Vicky pointed out, they could easily go for national insurance for employees and put that 4% back on. They may go for 2% so that we don't feel too hard done by. Or they're going to make cuts. And the departments have been told to come up with brutal cuts, brutal solutions. And what everybody seems to be concentrating on, because it's been talked about in the corridors of power, is the benefit system. It's too big, it's too unwieldy, too many people claiming, too many... Even Tony Blair, I wish he would shut up and go away. He's had his chance in government. Bog off, is what I'd say to him. But he has come back and said, look, we're saying that everyday life stuff is a medical illness, and that's why there's so many people on these benefits. You're depressed because your girlfriend left you. No, that's not a medical issue. That's just normal. You're depressed. That's what he's saying, not what I'm saying. But the rising cost of health and disability benefits is in their sights. How are they going to cut that and keep the vulnerable safe? If you've got any ideas, I'm sure they'd like to hear them. I don't think they've got any. But, look, what would you prefer? More tax or cuts? Because we're at a bottleneck. It's one or the other, let me tell you. Give me a call. Tell me what you think. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at network rate. And text the word TALK and then your message to 87222.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello Hello there, and a good evening to you. It's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and it's time now to catch up with my brother from another mother, Chief Tech Expert at Integral in Kansas City, the USA, Burton Kelso. Good evening, Burton.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. Wow, look at you looking sharp, my friend. I hope you dressed up especially.
I did. Just for you.
Just for me, thank you.
Just for you.
Look, there's a lot of tech we need to do, isn't there? You're a big caretaker of tech. You're always telling me you've got to do this, you've got to keep ahead of that. These are this is the new year. Happy one to you, by the way. And there are things that we need to be doing in terms of maintenance with our tech. Tell me, what should I be doing?
So Happy New Year to you too. But one of the first things you want to do is to make sure you're building up your human firewall. Essentially, that means get smart about these scams that are coming around, because they're not going to go away unless people wise up and don't click on stuff. I mean, it's that simple. You know, just understand if it's an unknown message, whether it's text or phone call, it's no one that you need to talk to. So let it go to voicemail and just delete it. And then call the person back. It's that simple.
I absolutely agree with you. And there was that scam. I don't know if you've seen it your side of the pond, but there was a woman in France who gave away 800,000 euros to Brad Pitt.
I know, right?
A scam artist who clearly was not Brad Pitt, but she managed to give him 800,000 euros. In order to have a kidney transplant. You'd think, well, surely he can afford that.
Oh, my gosh. I just can't imagine what that lady was taking in order to make her so delusional to think that Brad Pitt was talking to her. But, you know, Petrie, this shows the power of AI and how scammers are using it to trick you. But you've got to use your common sense and build up your human firewall so you can avoid nonsense like this.
Yeah, I mean, if I get emails and I even if it's from a recognised company, I just click on the email address and you can see that it's not. It just isn't, and then it goes straight in the bin. And like you with calls, just don't answer them. Don't answer them.
Exactly. Don't answer it.
But it is difficult with some of the scams because there's those mum and dad scams, right? That oh, hi, it's your son here. I've lost my phone. Da 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 da. I mean, I've already said to my boy that use a code word or you call me. There's no reason not to call me, even if you're borrowing somebody else's phone.
Right. For me, I tell my boys that they wind up in jail, don't even bother calling, because I've already told you, don't do this. And if you get in trouble,
and you did it,
I'm not going to worry about a phone call, because it's like, well, don't call your dad. You're just stuck in the slammer. But honestly, yes, you've got to put steps in place in order to protect yourself and your family. So
yeah, just get a code word. A code word.
Yes.
It's my son's nickname that only he and I know, and that's what he would have to use if he wanted to get my attention. So it's as simple as that.
It is.
What about your social media accounts? And I don't really like social media very much. I only got a Twitter account to stop somebody from pretending to be me. I post pictures of my dog, and that's about it. But how do we protect our social media?
Petrie, by doing exactly what you said. You have a social media account to protect you from having a criminal clone you. Right. So claim those accounts, even though you don't use them, at least they're in your name. Now criminals can use AI to create a bogus account and then have you saying all sorts of stuff. You know, it's just crazy. Yeah,
they can these days, can't they? Because again, all this voice mimicry software that's around at the moment as well.
Right, exactly. But the main thing is that you've got to protect the accounts themselves by making sure that you are using strong pass phrases and pass keys in order to keep those accounts safe, and turn on two-factor authentication. Because if you lose social media, it's a done deal. You're done. There's no way to get it back.
Yeah.
Lost memories, lost a business. So protect them.
And they are, to a lot of people, they are incredibly important. And again, I do have a I do have an Instagram account, but I don't use it. I just, like you, I said, after the Twitter thing, I went and claimed it. Because I tried to get them to take down the other Petrie Hosken, and they wouldn't. They didn't. Even though I sent passports and I sent all sorts of things to prove it was me, they didn't take it down. So I don't know if that scumbag is still saying horrible things, but at least people know it's not me, because I only post pictures of the dog. So, you know, so I guess, yeah, just making sure that you own your own name is what you're suggesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Own it and protect it. Make sure criminals aren't hacking your account.
Yeah. And what about AI? I love this line, don't turn a blind eye to AI. I wish I'd thought of it. But how do you protect yourself from AI?
Well, it's not necessarily protecting yourself from AI. It's more about use it intentionally. So instead of using raggedy old Google searches, use AI to find the information you want. If you use AI, it's concise, to the point, and you just don't have to shift through a lot of rubbish on the web to get the answers you want.
See, I don't. I haven't started using AI in that way. I mean, but some of my friends have started using Chat GPT or whatever it's called. But I don't. I'm very old school. I mean,
and that's okay.
I still have a diary that I write things in because I can't. It has to be paper for me. I can't cope with it, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's okay that you don't use AI. But you still have to be aware of what's going on with AI, especially when we're talking about cyber threats. Like you said, the mimicry, people able to clone your face and do deep fakes and clone your voice. You've got to pay attention to all that so that you can stay safe and secure at the very least. But if you're going to use AI, again, make it intentional so that way you're getting more out of it.
Yeah. Now, you want to talk about the CES 2025. It was a week ago, wasn't it? But there was some really smart stuff that came out of that. What are your favorites?
Oh, I like that Ring now has a smoke alarm. I think that's great. They should have come out with one, years ago. But it's great that Ring has a smoke alarm. My big thing, though, even though it's big in the UK and in Europe, auto mowers. We have a Momotion auto mower, and it's the best thing next to sliced bread. Rather than getting sweaty behind a lawnmower, let the robot take care of it. And now they're GPS enabled, because the old one would just bounce around the yard.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't do a good job. But now you can have the lines with your auto mower. I mean, it's great. It's really great. But
like you said, we've had them for some time. Why is America big? You've got bigger yards than we've got. I mean, why is it taking you guys so long to get on the same page?
I think that's part of the problem, is that the auto mowers that are over in the UK were designed to handle smaller yards, where they had to change the technology to handle our big old yards and our McMansions over here in the US.
Now you're showing off, aren't you? Right. Bird Buddy Petal Camera. Is that exactly what it sounds like?
Oh, my God. Petrie, I actually got to set one of these up. There is a bird feeder that has a camera, and you can enable it to Wi-Fi. So when your cardinals or buzzards or whatever show up in your yard, you can view them on the bird feeder. Now they've got a pedal that will sit in your yard and monitor everything that's going on in your yard. Now, I don't know why you couldn't just use a regular video camera to do this, but for those that are gardeners and want something cute and, I guess, trendy, there's the pedal camera.
Yeah, you see, in my garden, I'd set it up to catch and snipe squirrels and foxes, because the squirrels have shredded all my garden lights, all the wires, everything gone, and they've stolen the bulbs as well. So I'd have that for that, and not for the cuteness factor of it either, so I could identify which one was doing it.
Oh my gosh! And have like a wanted poster on your house. I'm looking for this squirrel and this fox.
Yeah, the squirrel and the fox. They are a nightmare. You live in the city for a reason, right? So there's no wildlife. That's what you want from living in a city. You don't want them, and they're still there. Talk to me about the AI that's embedded in the fridge. Does this tut every time you open the fridge, or go, oh, don't touch that?
it's spoiled. That would be nice.
Oh, wait, get your hands off the cake. That's what I need. Yeah.
Right. That would be great. But yeah, current AI for the Samsung fridge just allows you to have AI notify you when you're out of specific items. So if your egg low on dairy or eggs or whatever, it's supposed to report back to you and let you know when it's time to go to the store and get new items.
Can't you just look? It's not that complicated, is it? You open the fridge and you go, oh, I forgot to get milk.
Right, exactly. Well, I guess it's supposed to prepare it for you, so when you get to the store, you'll already know. Or maybe someone drank the last of the milk while you're at the store, and then it will notify you.
Those squirrels again.
Exactly.
That's who it is, breaking into the house. Now, listen, just before I let you go, Burton, what about are we going to do without TikTok? Did I hear that Musk is lined up to buy it?
I've heard a lot of rumors about it, but I'm going to share my conspiracy theory with you.
Yay.
You know, TikTok was banned in India, right?
Uh-huh.
And so everyone went to Instagram. I think Facebook is doing the same thing in the U.S. to get more people to get to Instagram. Because if they get rid of TikTok, competition's gone and everyone's on Insta. So that's my little conspiracy theory. But I think it's going away. You know, it'll be gradual, but I think they're done.
Do you really? Because it's such a giant.
It is, but just the whole Chinese fear is what's causing people to get away from TikTok. And I'm like, heck, the Chinese already have access to a ton of information. So some poor, innocent TikTok app is just doing what Facebook and the other social media platforms are doing. Yeah. Just trying to sell ads. That's it.
That's it. But I think I can survive without TikTok.
Yeah, because you're on X. I don't know why you don't get on TikTok. You could take photos of not only your animals, but you can have video with your buddy pedal camera showing all the animals that you're sniping or viewing in your yard.
Yeah. I tell you what, that would sell on TikTok. I'd get lots of people watching that. Burton, it's always such a delight to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Burton Kelso there, Chief Tech Expert at Integral in Kansas City, USA.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening. Just to remind you that coming into the studio in about 10, 15 minutes' time is the fabulous Kevin Schofield. So he'll be here to go through the newspapers and talk all things politics. My goodness, we've got a lot to talk about, haven't we? But first, Van Connor. Van is the man who's going to tell us about some movies. Van.
Petrie, how you doing, darling? Happy New Year. I haven't spoken to you yet this year.
I know. It's outrageous. I was hoping you were going to be in the studio, but no.
I mean, I was looking for you. New Year's Eve, it got to 11:58. I was looking around for you. Nowhere there.
Nowhere for a snog. I'm sorry.
Nowhere.
I was at work. That's why I was here. Talk me through these films. A Real Pain.
A Real Pain, which is the new film. This is actually written and directed by one of its two stars. So it's actually written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, who co-stars in the movie alongside Kieran Culkin, who obviously is riding high at the moment because he's just off the back of Succession. He's then gone and won a Golden Globe for this as well. And then, you know, cherry on top, you know, they made a big thing out of him at the WWE. The day after, ringside, when at the same time. Sorry, I'm triggering the Apple thumbs up there. So this is the story of two cousins who, following the death of their grandmother, they decide to go on a trip to Poland. She was a Holocaust survivor who had emigrated to the States, so they decide, in her honor, following her passing, to take a trip together to Poland, go on the sort of tourist trip where they join like a group and they go on the train journey and they see all the cathedrals and all the other marketplaces and, of course, a concentration camp. And along the way, they also decide that they're going to end this trip with a journey to their grandmother's childhood home. You know, the homestead before the family were broken apart, you know, during the Holocaust, and then, of course, absconded to the US. But this journey also brings with it this exploration of not only their grief, but also their own individual issues, both with their own lives and with each other. So this is in cinemas now. I've got a clip for you. This is Kieran Culkin brilliantly flipping out on a train when he realizes that train, Poland, bit of a connection there. Have a listen.
Dude, we are Jews on a train in Poland. Think about it.
I'm Benji. Benji?
Yeah.
You're all right up there?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, you know, it's, to be fair, fascinating.
No, I mean, I just feel like, sorry.
Okay.
Is anyone else, like, feeling this right now?
Feeling what?
Like this creepy feeling that, like, you know, we're like royalty on this train? I mean, does no one else see the irony here?
Jesus.
Like eating fancy food and sitting up here when 80 years ago we would have been herded into the backs of these things like cattle.
Okay, Benji, I don't think anybody here wants to hear that right now.
Okay, why not? Why doesn't anyone want to hear it?
Because it's depressing.
Okay,
Look,
depressing?
It's okay. You're raising an interesting sensitivity here. It does sometimes come up on these tours. You're staying in fancy hotels, eating posh food, and at the same time you're looking back at the horrors of your family history.
That looks really good.
I can't see you.
Oh, no, there we are.
Oh, there we are.
There
We're back. We're back.
I'm here.
Yeah, it is really good. I'm happy to
It
say.
looks
I had a really good time with it.
Yeah.
I will say,
really into that.
I will say, if you saw the Steve Coogan, Rob Brydon thing, The Trip, a few years ago, they made a couple of those. This is sort of like what happens if you mash up The Trip with a Woody Allen movie, only a sort of younger skewing Woody Allen movie, and it works really well. They've got great chemistry and sort of banter and back and forth dialogue with one another. There's a palpable dynamic between them, and obviously they are playing to type.
Yeah.
Like Jesse Eisenberg is the whiny neurotic one. In
He's
other words,
always is.
Jesse
but he does
Eisenberg.
it so well, doesn't he? I mean, I don't mind.
Exactly.
I don't mind that.
But it's the bouncing. The bouncing is the unique selling point here, and they do it so well with one another. It's worth the movie for that. I was really touched by it. I thought it was a really solid film.
Yeah, it looks absolutely brilliant. That's in cinemas now. What about Baby Girl? One of my teens said she wanted to watch Baby Girl.
Well, but be honest with you, Petrie, I've been dreading talking to you about Baby Girl because it's it's about a powerful, striking woman of a certain age and the relationship she enters into with a younger subordinate. So of course I thought I've got to talk to Petrie about that. So Nicole Kidman is the striking. Nicole Kidman is the striking, powerful woman of a certain age, and Harris Dickinson is the younger subordinate. He is her intern. She's like the powerful robotics CEO. He's the intern. At first they enter into a pretty by-the-numbers, bog-standard affair. But of course, this soon gives way to something a bit more, hence the clever title of the movie, once they enter into something of a baby girl daddy dynamic. Ooh. And this proves to be actually the missing component of her life. It proves to be the sort of connection that she's always been lacking, the thing that's always been distancing her from effectively human connection. But at the same time, it also threatens to sort of unravel her family life, her marriage, her career, the perception of her around the world. And at the same time, we start to explore the dynamics of what it means to be a woman in this profession, in any workplace, and the sort of pressures and things that you come across in that setting. I've got a clip for you, and this is the first meeting between the pair. This is a mentorship session at the company.
How did it start?
What?
The warehouse automation dream.
That is your question?
Yeah.
Google it.
No, I just wanted to hear it from you.
Why?
Because the internet's not reliable.
I wanted to automate repetitive tasks and give people their time back by limiting.
Power-hungry personalities?
You think that's what I am?
No. No. I think the opposite.
You think I don't like power?
No, I think you like to be told what to do. Sorry, I didn't mean to... Sorry.
Oh, forward much. Yeah, I think if I ever got into a relationship where I called my boyfriend Daddy, I'd have a word with myself. I think that's really creepy.
It's different strokes for different folks, yeah. Petrie, you know what I mean? Yeah, I will say, this is hot. This movie's hot. I'm just going to say, I saw the reboot of Emmanuel today. This is hotter. This is like, if you're one of those people that likes the 50 Shades of Grey movies, obviously you have low standards of cinema to begin with, but you're going to love this. This is way hotter, way better, and actually a more nuanced and much better thought out depiction of kink culture in a mainstream film. Also, I mean, performances are terrific. Nicole Kidman, absolute queen in this. Banderas is my MVP, because Banderas with the dad bod, turns out the man's still got it, even with the dad bod. Harris Dickinson makes an impression as well, but I think the real star is Helena Rain, who has written and directed this. Basically focuses it all on a lot of tight, handheld close-ups, intimate lensing, some very sexy cinematography, very glossy, very glam, and also just a great soundtrack. I mean, at one point they start dropping things like Need You Tonight by In Excess, and my personal favourite, Father Figure by George Michael in a movie called Baby Girl.
Of course.
What's not to love?
What's the certification on that?
Oh, that is an 18, and deservedly so, because there are things in Baby Girl I have never seen depicted in a Hollywood film before.
Oh,
not even kidding.
Everybody in that room there, like little meerkats again. They all went. I think they'll all be watching Baby Girl. Let's turn our attention to. I mean, this is supposed to be, of course, the season for awards. And nobody has got any appetite for that in LA. So a lot of them now, quite rightly, being pushed back.
Yes, I mean, we've had the Producers Guild nominations. I think have been pushed. The Critics' Choice Awards have been pushed. The BAFTA Tea Party in LA, that got pushed, and of course the biggie that we're all sort of keeping an eye on at the moment is the Oscar nominations, which were going to be taking place. I think it was on the 17th. They were then got pushed to the 19th, and they've now been pushed again in literally today.
Well, they might just release them rather than do a big, which they normally do in a theatre, don't they, with people there? But they might just release them on an email or something.
There was speculation about the Oscar nominations becoming an evening event this year, that the actual telecast, the actual broadcast in which they announced the Oscars might actually be an evening thing as opposed to like a breakfast time in the US kind of spot, because we normally get them around lunchtime. It's usually sort of early afternoon that we see them because it's going out for breakfast kind of in LA. The idea was that there was speculation this year that it was going to be an evening gig. I'll be honest with you, I'm not that excited about this year's awards season because it's just a very mixed bag of films. And I really don't want to see Wicked and Emilia Perez get any love that they don't deserve, which is to say any.
I just can't imagine there, being an appetite for this for a long time, and they're still going to have to go ahead and do it. But it'll be a very mooted affair. I'm certain all of them will be.
There is the opportunity there as well, though, to effectively utilise the awards ceremonies and the awards season as a fundraising and awareness platform.
True. Yeah.
And that happened during COVID. During COVID, there was a lot of attention was drawn to first responders, and in certain awards ceremonies, I think they actually had, medical responders as part of the ceremony. There is the opportunity here to do a similar thing, get the LAFD involved, things like that, and have representatives from the fire
That's
department.
That's a good idea. That I can see them supporting that, but I just think it's very difficult to stand there and take an award for pretending to be somebody else.
Right.
Like,
thanks for watching The Substance. By the way, the country's burning down.
Right.
It's a weird
all I did
idea.
was pretend to be somebody else, and there's dead people. But anyway, one thing I do want to very, very quickly say, I'm really excited about this, is Danny Boyle has revealed he'll be returning to direct the third film of the new 28 Days Later trilogy. What are they going to call it? 28 years later?
They are 20. It's 28 years later.
Right.
There is a second one that's already been filmed before the first one is out. That's directed by Nia DaCosta, and it's called 28 Years Later: The Bone Temple, I believe. And there is going to be a third one we've had confirmed, and forming this 28 Years Later trilogy. Danny Boyle will be back for that, so he will have directed the first one, then the fourth one, then the sixth one. Is the way this is going to. Sorry, the first one, then the third one, then the fifth one. Sorry, that's how it's all going to shake out for Danny Boyle.
Oh, he's brilliant. I mean, the first one was just incredible.
Oh, classic.
As indeed you are, my darling. Thank you so much, Van Connor. Mwah. Happy New Year, film critic there. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. It is great to have your company, and with me in the studio, I'm thrilled to say, is Kevin Schofield, who is here to go through Wednesday's papers. Crikey, is we there already? Blimey. Right, so, but just before that, all of the talk, of course, is about Rachel Reeves at the moment, the budget. She made her statement, standing by her budget. I mean, I suppose she's got to.
Yeah.
But the corridors of power are talking about the one place that she is going to have to attack is health and welfare benefits. So the health and disability benefits, more precisely, which are mushrooming sort of out of control. Even Tony Blair, I said earlier, I wish he'd just bog off. Honestly, Tone, you've had your go.
Yes.
You know, but he's saying, look, we're over medicalising things. We're turning everyday normal behaviour into a disability or bad health, and then we have to pay people for it.
Yeah.
So that's his view, and I suspect that's a view of a lot of people in the corridors of power.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So, tax or cuts? We're at a bottleneck. It's got to be one or the other, or even both.
Well, yeah, I think if it's a choice, it's going to be cuts. They're not denying that cuts are coming. Spoke to Treasury officials last week, and they wouldn't use the C word, but it's all about an iron grip on the finances. Rachel Reeves hasn't ruled it out. Certainly, she's refused to rule it out. Keir Starmer, at a press conference yesterday, was asked numerous times, will there be more public spending cuts to come because of all the other economic problems? And again, he wouldn't rule it out. So, it doesn't take a genius really to read between the lines and see that is what's coming now. Whitehall departments, what's coming up is what's known as a comprehensive spending review, in which Secretaries of State come in and are basically sat down and told, right, this is your budget, this is how much you've got to spend, and it's probably going to be less than it was last year.
But that's about running the department, isn't it?
Yeah.
When do they tackle what that department spends?
Well, for instance, health is protected, as we know, and the NHS is actually getting extra money, an extra £10 billion, I think it is. But it's everything that the other departments, education, transport, justice, they are given a pot of money to spend on
the department
everything that
and
they
on
do,
everything.
on everything that they do. Yeah,
okay.
Not just on running costs of
Right.
the department, on everything that they do, all the policy that they're responsible for, and they are being told basically to deliver the same amount, but for less money. Is what's going to happen, because basically the money that Rachel Reeves thought she was going to have, and it wasn't going to be a lot really left over once she's paid for everything.
9 billion.
Yeah, that's been wiped out now. That's gone. And raising taxes isn't really an option, not least because in the manifesto they said they wouldn't put up income tax, VAT, or national insurance. Now they're putting up national insurance on employers, but not on you and I. And she raised £40 billion in the budget, and they've repeatedly said that was a once in a Parliament budget to fix the finances, fix the foundations, get the public purse on the sound financial footing.
This is the problem, is that they haven't fixed anything because they've run out of money.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And they spent so long. I mean, they've only been in 6 months odd, but for a good deal of that, they talked about how rubbish this country was. They talked it down. Of consumer confidence, gone. Business confidence, gone. External, international confidence in this country, gone. They did that. And now they're trying to go, ta-da! It's all going to be better. But my belief is the damage is done. They will get to fix nothing because they've run out of money.
Well, they
already.
have. Yeah, they have, and politically it's impossible really for them to put up taxes again, because people won't wear it and they'll say, well, hang on a minute, you said you wouldn't. So,
and also you've had all this money and there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So they've obviously repeatedly talked about the £22 billion black hole. So they would say, well, that money was, it's already spoken for, just to kind of get us on an even keel. But as we've said, the cost of government borrowing going up through the roof means that, any minute fiscal headroom, to use the jargon, extra money that she had available has gone. But they still have all these policies that they need to pay for. So the money's got to come from somewhere. They can't borrow it because it's too expensive. They can't put up taxes because politically that's impossible. So the only possible option is cuts. But again, it's easier said than done. You know, we have had basically very tight public spending rounds for the last decade and a half, really, since the coalition came into power.
Well, that's what they've been saying has been the problem with the Tories, isn't it? That they've made all these cuts, which basically been austerity, and they're going to take us down the same path.
Yeah. Well, they say, that was another. I put that point to a Treasury official last week, and I said, well, hang on, Rachel Reeves in last year's Labour Party conference speech did say no return to austerity under Labour, and I said, well, how do you square that? And he said, well, we're raising an extra £40 billion, we're putting billions more into the NHS, we're spending more money here than everywhere, so it's not austerity. But it kind of is, because you're also asking all these departments to cut spending, which means that the services that they deliver to the public will be cut.
Yeah. And they will be cut.
Which is what you and I would understand as austerity.
And in terms of growth as well, how can you expect growth when you're looking for growth from the public sector, which is what they're doing? They're not looking for growth particularly from the private sector. They're saying from the terms of the money we're putting in, we expect more growth to come out of the public sector. So if you're cutting the public sector, then they haven't got as much money to spend on the growth that you're dependent on to get the private sector interested in investing.
Yeah, well,
so, I mean, you've created a disaster, a downward spiral.
It's a perfect storm, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the worst of all worlds. And don't forget, they said that growing the economy, and not just growing it, but growing it much quicker than the Tories ever managed, was their #1 mission.
Well, they failed.
Their initial promise was to have the fastest sustained growth, economic growth in the G7.
Weren't we the fastest growing in Europe anyway?
I think so. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was.
Great, but it was faster than anybody else.
Yeah, we were growing faster than other. But now we're back down. The last one was 0.1% in October.
Back down the snake.
Yeah, down the snake. Down the snake. We're certainly not going up. We're walking under a lot of ladders, I think.
Walking under
may explain it.
The thing is, as well, you have a Labour government. People expect certain behaviour from a Labour government. They seem to be almost more cuddly. They seem to be there to support the vulnerable.
Less ruthless.
Less ruthless. And they're there to look after the old and the disabled and the vulnerable and the unemployed. And people always imagined, I think, when they vote Labour, that is the government they're going to get. They've already proved that they are ruthless. They took that money away from millions of old people who are suffering as we speak. Now they're looking at taking money away from another vulnerable group of people, and that is those on health and disability benefits. How on earth is that going to look?
Well,
because they're talking big cuts to this department. They're not talking a couple of million here and there. She needs billions off this department.
Yeah.
She needs probably 30 billion.
Yeah. She's never going to get that much.
She's never going to get that much, but she's going to be aiming for that.
But again, you're right. After what they did to the pensioners, and that politically was insanity because of the relatively small amount of money that it saved, but for all this political pain in the middle of a bitterly cold winter. Don't forget. So yeah, they're looking at the welfare bill and saying, well, it has gone up and up and up, which it has. Largely post-pandemic, lots and lots of people haven't gone back to work. Lots of people are now of working age but are off on sickness benefits. So they think, right, we can get those people back to work, get them off the benefit bill, and that way we will cut the benefit bill. But again, I remember the Conservatives saying they were going to do that. I remember the previous Labour government talking like that under Gordon Brown and Tony Blair as well. So it's one of these things that it's seen as a soft-ish target. It's a massive spending department, therefore it must be ripe for efficiencies on saving money. But it's much easier said than done.
And do you do it with the carrot or the stick?
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's, again, you see the Labour are seen as a sort of cuddly...
using the carrot, but they won't.
No, absolutely. So it's all about, tougher thresholds, tougher tests for people going back to work. You know what I mean? People ask whether they qualify for benefits or not. And again, it's much more difficult for a Labour government to impose that because, as you rightly say, people don't expect Labour to be like that. They expect Labour to support the unemployed and those on sickness benefit, whereas the Tories are saying, yeah, well, that's how you expect the Tories to behave. So it's politically, it's much more difficult for Labour to do it. But, you know, if that's how she wants to, if she needs to save all this money, then that seems to be where she's, the budget that she's eyeing up right now. But
it's unthinkable to me.
There are just no good options really for her now.
Well, there sort of are. I mean, what I would do immediately is say to people like Starbucks, you pay a purchase tax in the country that you're selling the coffee.
Yeah, but then how often have they tried to go after these big companies?
Because they haven't done that. Because they keep saying, oh, yeah, we've got offshore this and we've got offshore that. Great, have as many offshores as you like, but you have a tax, a sales tax. America has a sales tax, right? You buy everything, it's priced without the tax. And then when you buy it, they put the tax on because you're buying it in that country. It's quite simple to do. They just don't have the appetite to do it. They're not brave enough to do it. So they'd rather steal it from somebody who's disabled.
I mean, come on.
That's a political decision, again, and it's wrong-headed.
Yeah, and again, it's also, you've got to remember, politically, they've got Reform breathing down their necks.
They're within
as well.
a millimetre of them.
One point behind them in a poll out this morning. So, again, you'd imagine this is Nigel Farage's territory. You can imagine Reform was telling voters on the doorstep, we'll crack down on spongers, as they would say, you know, we will slash the welfare bill. So, Labour, I'd imagine, have got a bit of an eye on that as well. You know, they have to be seen to be tough on scroungers and people who are swinging the lead, as they would see it. So they have to act tough, but politically it's very difficult for them.
Oh my God, I mean, literally. Like I said, I've got the smallest violin for them, but they are in a tight squeeze.
Terrible.
The other issue for me is the civil service, because I was reading, I think it was yesterday or the day before, how the number of middle managers in the civil service has increased tenfold in the last few years. And this was to get around pay rise issues. So they just promoted everybody to be a middle manager. The civil service has got to be pulled back into line, hasn't it, in terms of what it's costing?
Well, the other thing is two reasons why the civil service numbers went up was obviously Brexit. The implementation of Brexit led to more civil servants being recruited, but also dealing with the pandemic as well.
Yeah, but they can go now.
Well, exactly. So that was what Jacob Rees-Mogg, if you remember, when he was a minister, that was he had a real bug.
He was going around putting notes on people's desks saying, how lovely of you to come back to work or something.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I missed you.
Sorry, I missed you. That was it. Yeah.
And again, you know, there was talk of massively reducing the number or the head count in the civil service back to pre-pandemic, pre-Brexit levels, because, well, we don't need
them
extra anymore. But again, you come up against the unions who go on strike, and the very powerful unions. There's the PCS union and there's the FDA. You know, very strong unionised workforce, which makes it much more difficult. And again, for Labour, it's especially difficult because, you know, they're supposed to be the union's friend. So
well, that again is another issue, isn't it, as we go into the new year, is already teachers are being balloted for strike. Junior doctors are coming back for more money. Nurses, everybody is saying, right, we've got a Labour government, now is the time to get those pay rises. And I think we're going to enter into a period of strikes coming up, and quite serious ones. I mean, the RMT are still striking over something else now. You know, and they always will find a reason to strike. It
is ironic, because that was one of the main criticisms of Labour in opposition of the Tory government, was that the industrial relations had collapsed, they'd lost control of the public sector, and that was why there were so many strikes, and that's why the waiting lists, NHS waiting lists, were going up, etc., etc. So they came in, they settled the strikes that were in front of them, but as you say, that's just for, you know, that gets you over a little bump,
a little hump.
But they'll come back next year for more. Well, hang on, you gave us that last year, so why can't we get it this year?
Oh no, the junior doctors said at the time, we'll take the 22%, but we want 35%, and we're coming back for it in the new year.
They were very, very honest about it. So, so again, you know, when there's less money now than Rachel Reeves thought she had in the budget in October, then, you know, they won't have the money
and
to pay
she
it.
handed out massive, was it 10 billion in pay rises to certain people a year? I mean, these were huge numbers.
Oh, there was,
that she
because they
handed
had
out.
to set, they said, well, look, this is what the
Backdated
pay review
and-
bodies have recommended. The Tories didn't grasp the nettle on this one. We will, here's your money. And that ended the strikes then.
That day, I think within a week, the RMT were
absolutely,
back.
absolutely. But now there'll be more strikes coming unless she can find the money from somewhere. But I mean, she's got so many other things that she wants to spend the money on that it's.
That she hasn't got. I mean, I know from my own budget, I can't spend the same pound twice.
Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. And in fact, I can't even spend £1 because they've already taxed me on it. And then there's VAT, and then there's spending. So it's about 45p.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah, so
you can't. You know, we know about being constrained, but I just hope that we don't get this every Monday. This boring speeches that I have to watch by Starmer rolling up his sleeves and going, "It's going to be great. Here's another pie in the sky."
But what's funny about those big speeches is the speech is about one thing, but then in the press comments afterwards, he's asked about everything but that. Which yesterday was about Rachel Reeves.
And he's failed to get front pages on every single one of his announcements.
His speech yesterday was about AI.
Yeah.
There was no coverage at all in the papers today. It was all about Rachel Reeves.
No, I know. Well, that's his fault, isn't it? I don't know who's running comms for him, but boy, they need firing. Right, Kevin and I are going to take a very brief break, but we will be back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, you're with Petrie and Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK, and we're looking now at Wednesday's papers. What a shocker. Sadiq quits over links to Bangladesh corruption. Now, there's a lot of corruption. She's the anti-corruption minister, by the way, just so we give her a full... was the anti-corruption minister. There was an official investigation found that her family's links to the ousted Bangladeshi regime exposed the government to reputational risks. Tulip Siddiq became the second member of the government to resign in 2 months. Tulip has said there was no evidence she'd done anything wrong, but having no evidence doesn't mean I haven't done anything wrong.
No, and the thing was, she had referred herself to Sir Laurie Magnus. Yeah, correct.
Late.
Yeah, it was.
She let it go.
Kicking and screaming, really. Yeah,
kicking and screaming.
This story has been around for
weeks.
A good few weeks.
Yeah.
And then eventually she referred herself to sort of take the pressure off. So this wasn't an in-depth investigation. This was a sort of fact-finding inquiry to assess whether a further, deeper investigation was required. And there was enough in this report, this letter to the Prime Minister from Sir Laurie Magnus to basically persuade her to resign. You know, she hasn't broken the ministerial code, but there is this perception of, and given her specific role as an anti-corruption minister, to be involved in alleged corruption or a corruption investigation is obviously incredibly awkward if that's your job, and I think she had no option other than to resign. But again, it looked bad for the Prime Minister, not just because he's losing a minister, but because this is a minister who is very close to him. This is neighbouring constituency MP, and he desperately wanted to keep her in post. He stood by her as much as he could until eventually it was too much. And you compare that to the way he treated Louise Haigh, his former Transport Secretary, who the story broke about her past conviction for fraud. She was gone within days. And a very cut reply to her resignation letter from Keir Starmer, like 3 lines. It was very, very short, whereas his letter to Tulip Sadiq was much more
with
glowing.
It's with sadness that you have to resign.
Basically
and all
leaving
of
the door open for her coming back in the future.
But the thing is, I mean, it's very easy to say that nothing was found to support the claim of corruption, because it was stopped before that inquiry happened. And of course there are several anti-corruption commissions involved, I think, examining her aunt. And there seems to be billions that were siphoned away but by her aunt, and properties misappropriated, billions of pounds. That some of the money was used to buy property overseas, and the suggestion,
including in London,
that Tulip Sadiq lived in one of those properties that had been bought with this stolen money, basically.
Yeah, but she had denied previously. I think it was the Mail on Sunday had reported that she was living in a house paid for by her family in Bangladesh. They denied that until last weekend or the weekend before they were presented with incontrovertible evidence. So they had to apologise for effectively lying to journalists, which again is a terrible look.
Terrible look.
And the whole thing, it was just one of these classic drip, and it wasn't going away. There was going to be more revelations. You can bet your
Of course there are. But there still will be.
I'm sure there will be.
Because there will be investigations. It might not be done by government, but they will be done.
No, they're absolutely. But she's no longer a minister.
Yeah.
It's, that's it. It's not the government's problem anymore, because she's just a backbench Labour MP now. But again, questions about Keir Starmer's judgment, that he stood by her for as long as he did, when it's been fairly obvious for a good few weeks now, almost since the story first emerged, that this was dicey for her and that she probably wasn't going to survive it.
She not given her family connections, no. But it's that fight that I just don't understand why these people just try to cling on when, that 5-day rule, isn't it? But, the cycle will have moved on by then, I'll be safe.
Yeah.
And it's like these days, the press is like a dog with a bone with stories like this, and they just won't give you those.
And the Sunday Times in particular, to give them their absolute credit, they have really ran with this story. There were more revelations at the weekend of the interim Prime Minister of Bangladesh, a man who is a Nobel Peace Prize winner of unimpeachable character, basically accused her family, Tulip Sadiq's family, of robbery, of stealing from
the money,
the country, and effectively saying that she should resign. And he kind of thought that the writing was on the wall from that moment. More revelations in the last couple of days in the papers as well, and
the fact
this was the final straw.
That she didn't misappropriate this money or steal this money, it is kind of irrelevant if she's living in a property that was perhaps bought with this money, or was bought with this money by the family members, and so that stinks as well. You can't, you don't get away with that.
No, exactly. It was
you don't say I didn't know.
No, and there was a picture of Tulip Sadiq with her aunt and Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin in 2013 over this. This was the original story, was over this deal. I think it was a nuclear
That's
plan.
right, where her aunt was involved in it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what the initial investigation of alleged corruption was all about. And just that picture of her, of all people, with Vladimir Putin, it just looked awful. Once the investigation reported back today from Laurie Magnus, it was pretty obvious that she
it would be interesting if her constituents now, if there were to be a by-election. Because I don't think Labour don't want that, which is why she's tucked away on the back benches, right? And she'll be told not to stand down as a constituency because if there was a by-election, I don't think Labour would win it.
Well, I mean, it is North London.
And they don't want to test that.
Yeah, no, they certainly don't want to test it. They don't want any by-elections right now because the polls, I was just saying earlier, the poll 1 point ahead of Reform. I mean, I imagine North London, Highgate isn't what you call
safe, but who knows right
rich
now?
Reform territory. That being said, though, I would imagine that the majority would go down quite considerably, even if they did manage to hang on, because they are a remarkably, relatively unpopular government when you consider that 6 months ago they won a landslide victory. It's astonishing, really, how it's all
snatching
collapsed.
defeat from the jaws of victory.
Absolutely, and so quickly.
And so quickly. I mean, there ought to be a prize for it.
My
really.
worry was when they won, I thought it's going to be quite boring now for journalists. They're going to be competent, it's going to be managerial, there's going to be no knife-edge votes because they've got a huge majority. God, what on earth are we going to write about? Oh, I might have called that one wrong.
Are burned from writing so much. The good news on the front of the Times, though, of course, is the Princess of Wales has revealed that her cancer is in remission. This was her first solo engagement since becoming ill in January last year.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? She looks absolutely fantastic. And we didn't even know up until today exactly where she had been treated, and obviously she's revealed that she received the treatment at the Royal Marsden in London, and it's just great news that she is in remission. I mean, I remember when she made that statement, remember it was on the news, it was a Friday evening, I seem to remember that confirming that she'd been receiving treatment for cancer, and she didn't look well, as you might imagine, and it was very worrying indeed. You think she's got a young family, it's and also on the back of the King having cancer as well.
And Camilla, wasn't it? Oh no, it was Fergie.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you just think, my goodness, how much can that family take? But brilliant news. She's obviously had fantastic treatment, and she speaks very, very glowingly here about my heartfelt thanks go to all those who have quietly walked alongside William and me as we have navigated everything. We couldn't have asked for more. Thanking the hospital for looking after me so well during the past year.
Royal Marsden is a great hospital.
Yeah, it is a great hospital, and yeah, it's really, really good news, isn't it?
Yeah, really, it's very nice. Like you said, a great picture on the front. Just before we go to the break, Kevin, I wanted to address this on front page of The Guardian, because I think we're a similar vintage. I think you're younger than me, but Tony Slattery.
Yeah, that was
not a name that young people will necessarily know, but he was a mainstay, wasn't he?
Huge in the 90s.
Yeah, in the 90s.
Whose line is it anyway? Yeah. He was. Yeah,
he was
one
of these new radical comics, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was improvisational comedy actor. He seemed to be on the TV all the time.
All the time.
Back then, very handsome man. I seem to remember the girls at school and that all fancied him, and
that was a waste.
But you're right. Oh yeah, that's true. But you're right though about the young people now. So my colleague, I think, is 28, and when I saw it, I went, "Oh my God, Tony Slattery's died." And she was just looked at me. I was like, "Tony Slattery," and I said, "Oh, whose line is it anyway?" What? I mean,
it was sort of the new. That was the new comedy in a way, wasn't it? This sort of irreverent, sort of mucking around with stuff.
Exactly. I remember on Friday night on Channel 4, it used to be a must-watch telly.
Absolutely.
A hugely gifted man. Obviously, he's had a lot of mental health issues, but it seems as though I think
bipolar, wasn't he? He had trouble with addictions.
Yeah, but he seemed to sort of get through it and had everything back on track. I think he had a successful podcast.
He had a successful relationship, 40 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Very sad.
I think it was a heart attack, wasn't it?
It was a heart attack, yeah. Age 62, 63, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's 65.
65, okay.
But no age at all, really.
Maths. I'm no good at maths. You did the maths. Yeah, Tony Slattery, absolutely brilliant. It was a total, for, like I said, for anybody in our age, in our sort of age group, was absolutely just so famous and so well known and so loved and so adored. And as many comedians, though, they have their demons. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You do see this a lot.
Yeah, the sad clown and all of that.
It really is.
Absolutely.
This sort of,
but that's how they cope with it, is they go out and
to go out and do it. I mean,
make people laugh and perform.
Stephen Fry as well. He was exactly the same with his demons.
Absolutely.
This incredible talent at making everybody else laugh, but just not happy in themselves. Very sad. On that note, Kevin and I are going to take a brief break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. It's good to have your company. It's Petrie and Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post, UK, here. And we're going through Wednesday's papers. The Daily Mail also reflecting on Kate Middleton, saying my relief at being in remission from cancer. And then another Starmer shambles the Mail has chosen. Just 24 hours after the PM insisted he had full confidence in her, Tulip Sadiq resigns over Mail's corruption probe revelation. So how secure is the crisis-hit Chancellor that he also backed? So that's the thing, isn't it? One lame duck down, they've said.
Yeah.
Because yesterday, I think the headlines were two lame ducks.
Yeah,
so
exactly,
that was it. Yeah.
Rachel Reeves and Tulip Sadiq.
So Rachel Reeves, because look, Keir Starmer is all about Keir Starmer. He wants to survive. So if he can blame somebody else for this mess,
Yeah, if you know, if it was a choice, ultimately either she goes or he goes, then she goes. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think we're, famous last words, I don't think we're close to that just yet, because not least because there's no obvious alternative in terms of personnel or economic strategy. You know, it's not as if there's someone there saying, well, no, this is what you want to be doing. That, you know, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have been in lockstep really for 3 years now since he made her Shadow Chancellor. You know, he's very much on board with what she's doing. He has stood by her through thick and thin, more thin than thick lately, and I just don't see how he would cut her loose unless he absolutely had to, if his own survival depended on it. And we're nowhere near there yet.
He's not a man to be on a life raft and throw somebody a...
Definitely. You don't want to be...
You don't kiss all his boot in your face.
No, definitely not. Definitely. He wouldn't think twice.
He wouldn't think twice about it.
But yeah, they desperately need some good economic news soon. But there doesn't seem to be any on the horizon.
Unless they can talk Trump out of tariffs, that might do something for confidence. But I just want to draw your attention, if I can, to the photograph on the front of the Mail of Rachel Reeves. She looks knackered.
She does.
Have you ever? I've never seen her look that.
They've not. I mean, they've obviously found
no, that was that was at PMQs.
Yeah, but they've used the worst possible angle that they could. I mean, she was in the chamber today. I didn't think she looked bad. She certainly looks better than in that picture. But you know, you wouldn't be human if you weren't feeling the pressure and feeling the strain. You know, just day after day of negative.
I wasn't sure they were human.
Believe it or not, having met a few of them, they are actually human. You know, day after day of negative headlines, negative economic data, and you know, everything's riding on her getting it right, because if she doesn't, then they are in a complete world of pain. You know.
Oh yeah, I think they're pretty too late for that. The Sun, it's a relief to be in remission again, choosing... Sorry, I'm just looking at the Star. Choosing to reflect on Princess Catherine. This is great. The front page of the Daily Star. Keep your filthy hands off Tory beavers. Yeah, I'm a bit of a fan of these creatures, I have to say. Nature lovers have their knickers in a twist after Labour government blocked the reintroduction of beavers into the wild because it's viewed a Tory legacy. How can beavers be Tory?
Well, the beavers themselves aren't Tory. Important.
They are, though.
Although that one does have a rosette on it.
Yes, exactly.
That one does have a rosette. So, all right, this particular beaver is Tory, but I don't think that's representative of beavers as a whole.
OK.
There's a whole range of political views.
So I suppose like with everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But so this story, so I thought, well, obviously with being a Star, you only get one short sentence on the front page. You haven't a clue what it's about. So it turns out that this is actually a follow-up of The Guardian, which broke this story this afternoon, saying that Downing Street has blocked plans to release wild beavers in England because officials view it as a Tory legacy. Now, this campaign has been going on for quite some time. Boris Johnson was a big supporter of it. Even Steve Reid, the Environment Secretary, is in favour of it.
Well, it's going to stop flooding, apparently.
Yeah, well, exactly. So anyway, they passed it to Downing Street, and apparently a Downing Street official... they're not in favour of the policy there because they view it as, quotes, a Tory legacy.
Idiots.
But you scroll down at the bottom of the story, I'm saying, I wonder what the government have said to this. A government spokesperson said, this story is categorically untrue.
Oh, so they are reintroducing
Well, just as the government is working with Natural England to review options on species reintroduction, including beavers. So it's not saying
bring
it's
back the beavers,
happening,
that's what we
but
say.
they're not ruling it out. They're certainly not saying it's been cancelled. So
very happy-looking beaver on the front.
It's a very happy-looking beaver.
And he's holding a stick.
I'd imagine that's kind of what they do, isn't it? He's probably no doubt halfway through building a dam.
He looks like he's about to play a flute.
He's stopped off to vote, and then he's gone back to building his dam.
And Boris Johnson is on his back, by the look of it.
As a clown.
So as a clown.
Done up as a clown.
So there you go. And Enders Barry is pushed down the stairs by a killer ghost.
Oh, well,
that's the story we've all been waiting for.
That does make you want to read on.
That really does. So that's the Daily Star. Thank you, Daily Star. And thought of the day, free the beavers. There you go. The Independent, Treasury Minister Sadiq quits over corruption probes. We've had a look at that. Kate's return to Cancer Hospital, saying thank you and offering words of comfort to those who are going through chemotherapy and cancer treatment, as she had to do. The Daily Telegraph, they've gone Labour U-turns to revive free speech law. I wish I could read this a bit, because there was a story yesterday, I think, about how you wouldn't be able to have, you know, chunky discussions in a pub without being thrown out if you upset somebody.
Yeah, that was.
Is that to do with
the
this?
Times? I think that must be what's to do with it. But unfortunately, the
it's always the same with printing out the front of the Telegraph.
Fairly illegible.
Yeah, you can't read it.
But I mean, we know that the Telegraph clearly is very strong on free speech.
Yes.
So they would not be happy if the government was doing anything to limit free speech.
Well, let's hope
certainly.
that none of that was true, because that is that will not please anybody. And this story: a PM to pay damages to Gerry Adams.
Yeah, so
Senior
this is
peers and IRA victims criticise unacceptable repealing of Troubles law.
Yeah, so this is a report that was put out today under embargo from Policy Exchange think tank, basically about the government repealing a part of the Northern Ireland Troubles law, the Act 2023, which allows, which basically means that Gerry Adams and others who were jailed in the 1970s at the height of the Troubles
were political prisoners.
They are now, as political prisoners, they will be able to be paid public money, apparently, as a...
because we shouldn't have jailed them as political prisoners.
I guess so, yeah, they'll be able to...
That's just revising history.
Which is a pretty extraordinary story.
But do you remember as
so
well,
it makes
Kevin,
it possible for Gerry Adams and hundreds of others to claim compensation
for the time they spent in prison
in the 1970s. So Gerry Adams, as I recall, was interned.
Yes,
although he obviously has always denied being a member of the IRA, but he was interned in the 1970s, and this would allow him and others who were also interned to claim compensation.
Outrageous. I mean, no wonder people are upset about it. But do you remember the days, Kevin, when we weren't allowed to hear their voices?
Yeah, that was. Yeah,
that was
I do.
Weird,
yeah, that was in the 1980s. Yeah, I remember. It was
an actor would say their words.
You could see him speaking.
Yeah.
But it was an actor was doing his voice.
Yeah.
And I always remember being at university, and one of the classes we had was on Northern Ireland, and our lecturer brought in this video, as it was then. It wheeled in this television with a video recorder, and he put on, it was like a documentary or something, and that was the first time I'd ever heard Gerry Adams' voice.
Actual
and that was like the
voice.
1990s.
Yeah, because they used to get actors to do it.
That's what he sounds like.
That was a very bizarre thing, wasn't it?
It was really bizarre.
Really
it was the Thatcher government said that, you know, you didn't want to give them the oxygen of publicity.
And yet they repeated every word he
But
said.
in order to get round that, the broadcasters... So you couldn't hear his voice.
Yeah.
You couldn't hear what he was saying, but they would get round it by playing the footage of him talking, but someone else... I mean, look at someone else's voice.
It's crackers now when you think about it.
Yeah, it is absolutely...
Well, yeah. Crikey.
It is mad, really.
Oh, what we went through. Those youngsters of today don't have an
But we were
understanding.
happy.
We were happy. Videos, they were great. Quick break?
Why not?
Why not? Kevin Schofield, and I'll be back in just a second.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, you're with Petrie and Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK, and we're going through the newspapers for Wednesday, and the Financial Times actually gone for a real mixed bag on the front page for Wednesday. Fire hazard, strong winds raise a threat, and this of course is the LA fires, which are still nowhere near contained. It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
It is hard to imagine, and yet, as you say, there are more strong winds coming, which is the issue here with that, and obviously the fact that the ground is just bone dry because they've not had proper rain in 8
the
months.
Anna Santa winds, isn't it, that are hot themselves?
Hot winds,
really hot
70 to 80 mile an hour, which just set it off again, and they just cannot seem to get it under control. The death toll is going up. And the destruction and the cost, once it is finally dealt with, the cost of effectively rebuilding huge parts of Los Angeles is going to be billions of pounds. The cost to the insurance industry is going to be astronomical, although I believe a lot of them weren't insured, because I think the insurance companies changed a lot of their policies because of the threat of wildfires. So a lot of people, I mean, if you're a celebrity, I'm guessing, whose home has been destroyed, you'll be able to have the money yourself to.
We're going to see a lot of very bad films, though, with very big names, because you always know they've got a tax bill to pay, or they've got something. When a big celebrity ends up in this rubbish movie, that's what happens, and that's what will happen.
We can brace ourselves for that. But you just think of the poor people who lose their homes and lost everything, their livelihoods, all their possessions. Who don't have?
It's awful.
Who don't have the money to rebuild, and what on earth are they going to do?
It must be the most awful thing to lose absolutely everything in that way. And there were people who didn't even have the chance to go back to their house to collect their passports or their birth certificates or pictures of their children as babies or whatever it is. And I suspect I'm not the only person really to look around my own home and think, okay, if I had to put stuff in my car, what would I take?
We had this discussion actually, and I was in the family. I just what would you?
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, if all the kids, family, we are all safe.
Yeah.
What would you take?
What would you need to take with you? What was it with you, do you think?
Well, my wife, she said the cat, and I'm not entirely convinced that she wouldn't go for the cat before me, to be honest. And I really mean that.
I reckon, I said to Gabriella, my producer, I said, if there was a fire at my place, I'd come home and find a cat with a box of matches. Hates me, that cat. But the dog, for me, the number one.
Yeah, well, you definitely make sure that the cat... Yeah, of course, you wouldn't want the cat. You wouldn't want your pet, the kids, it would be like their favourite toys and stuff, a lot of cuddly toys that they've had since babies and all that kind of comfort type thing. Probably like record collection, or at least a few... Because I've started building up a vinyl collection again.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. I mean, it's still relatively small, but I wouldn't want to have to start from scratch again.
Yeah. So, I think, again, it would be photographs of my son when he was
the sentimental things of sentimental value.
And the passport, and probably my copy of Ballet Shoes by Neil Stretfield, which is one of my favourite books when I was a little girl. I've still got the original one.
My daughter went with her gran to see that just after between Christmas and New Year.
It's a gorgeous story. Yeah, I mean, that was my comfort. I read it. I mean, the book is in tatters, but I read it over and over and over again because it was my safe place when I was a little girl. So that definitely, and the dog, and anything else. I mean, any of my paintings I can replace. I can just do them again. Yeah. I wouldn't. I think that would be it, really, that I would need to take.
Yeah.
I'm not a collector of stuff. I don't really have stuff. But it does make you think, doesn't it, what you value in your home.
Yeah, and you feel so sorry for the people that didn't even have the option of saving anything because it just went.
Yeah. And did you see the story about the guy who found his dog?
No.
Oh, so he was told that the fires were likely to take his house, and he was at work at the time, so he tried to drive back to his house and he couldn't get there because of the traffic. He managed to get in touch with somebody who went to his house, I think it was a firefighter, to collect his dogs. He had 2 dogs in the house. That's all he wanted, was his dogs out of the house. And the firefighter was able to rescue one of them, but the other one ran away. So he had to leave with just the one dog. And so there's this video out there now of this guy going to a gate and using your silly dog voice. You've probably got a silly cat voice, but everybody's got a silly way that they... And calling for this dog, and it runs out of the debris.
Sweet.
And oh my God, it was
Yeah, of course.
and he was... The man is so overwhelmed with joy that this dog survived. And it's at that point, and you go... Yeah, that's what matters.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what matters.
Absolutely.
All this, I don't buy stuff, I don't collect stuff, I'm not into jewellery or shoes or whatever. I don't care about any of that. All of that is replaceable. But it's those things that you just can't get to, that you would never get back.
No, absolutely. No, you wouldn't want to lose a pet, that's for sure. Oh,
God, no, awful. So that story really has got us, I think, all thinking about what matters. But also on the Financial Times, China discusses using Musk as a broker in a deal to stop TikTok's US shutdown. Now, my understanding of this was they were going to sell it to Musk.
Well, yeah, that's been denied, but can you imagine? That doesn't mean to say that it won't happen.
These days.
And he certainly has the money to do it. But can you imagine if he also controlled... TikTok. I mean, you're into sort of Bond villain territory.
He really
would just basically be able to do whatever he wanted. Spread any message that he wanted to everyone in the entire world. It's quite terrifying.
It really is. I wonder if he will. It also, of course, this time next week we have a new president.
Yep, absolutely.
And the inauguration would have been on Monday night.
Yeah,
and
interesting times.
Yeah, it's happening on my show, of course.
Oh, excellent.
It's going to be great. It's going to be really good, actually. But new president, new era. What on earth? I mean, you said that politics might be boring. Crikey.
It's certainly not going to be boring in America, and not here either, because obviously what America does and...
Well, Musk, and that's what made me think of it, was Musk and Starmer.
Yeah, absolutely. With that for a start. I think it'll be fascinating to see how long the Trump-Musk friendship lasts, you know. I think
there'll be an ego off, won't there, at some point?
Yeah, I don't think Trump will stand for Musk trying to... I think all this sort of President Musk stuff that's going to really gets under his skin.
He's very thin-skinned, Donald Trump, isn't he? He's got
very much so. That'll be fascinating to watch. And as we touched on earlier, the tariff situation, you know, if you were to come in and make good on his promise to impose tariffs on everything coming into America, that could have a huge impact, obviously, on the UK economy, but the global economy, and also spending, defence spending. Well, it would be a disaster for America. And defence spending as well. You know, he's talked about 5% for NATO.
That's never going to happen.
That's never going to happen. Never. But he's not going to settle for 2.5% at some point in the future, which is the UK government's policy at the moment.
Do you know what? He was right, I think. I never thought I'd use those words, but he was right to push everybody else to pay their fair share. And everybody is coming 100%. Up. They are, actually, most countries are now coming up. Some have breached the 2.5% and have gone to 3%. We haven't. But he was right to do that, but 5% is not, and he doesn't even pay 5%.
No, it's not. That's not going to happen. But yeah, all these things I think are going to be fascinating to watch because they'll have a direct impact.
Well, don't you think that his billionaire buddies are going to sit him down and say, look, this talk of tariffs, mate, is going to push prices up in here more than anywhere else?
Yeah.
So
you would think so. That it might have been a rhetorical device for when he was
my favourite word,
campaigning. You know, I should say the most beautiful word, tariff.
Most beautiful word in the dictionary.
So yeah, I think maybe reality might kick in, and he'll realise that it's not practical or desirable for the US economy.
Not for the Americans, because they're going to have to turn to buying American goods, which everyone thinks is great, but they're going to be more expensive because they're going to be rarer because they haven't got all these imports to back them up. So it's going to be very, very difficult.
It is. But yeah, you're right. It will not be dull.
It's certainly starting from Monday. It won't be dull. The Eye, just briefly. I think we've got about a minute and a bit, but the Eye going for Britain's trickiest planning row. The UK intelligence service alarmed by China plan for a new super embassy. Well, can't they just stop it?
Well, you would think so. But then, remember, we're now trying to cosy up to the Chinese as well, aren't we? So there's a bit of a tricky balance in that.
Nothing like getting into bed with a nest of vipers.
Rich Reeves is just back from there, you know. So, but we know fine well that the Chinese, their intentions are not wholly altruistic when it comes to the rest of the world. So, it's a difficult one because, you know, below it says Reeves searching for growth. Well, one of the things that she thinks will help to boost growth is a closer relationship with China, the third largest economy. So, or the second largest economy, I should say. The
decision now rests with Rainer. God help us.
It's going to be a tricky one for sure.
On that one.
For sure.
Reeves searching for growth and ready to cut spending in March. Mini budget. Now, she promised us there wouldn't be. It's more of a fiscal statement, though, isn't it? But it will be seen as a mini budget when she issues fourth cuts. And potential tax grab somewhere in March.
Well,
she said that wouldn't happen.
No,
it would only be once a year.
Only have one fiscal event a year, which will be the budget in autumn. But one thing she will not call it is a mini budget because that just raises memories of Liz Truss and lettuces.
Yeah.
So,
listen, you can take that lettuce with you, Kevin. A free gift.
All right.
Kevin Schofield, thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful as ever. Right, coming up is the phone in. It is the full hour with just you and me. No other show does that. So if you want to talk back, this is where you do it. So pick up the phone and give me a call. We're talking about Rachel Reeves and budgets and money, but basically boiling that down to, should we go for more tax or should we go for cuts? Because we're at a bottleneck. One of those, possibly both of those, will have to happen to get us out of this new fiscal black hole that we're in. Which do you think it should be? Because at the moment it seems that Westminster is eyeing up those health and disability benefits. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
and a very good morning to you. This is Talk and this is Petrie, and also this is your hour. It's the only programme that offers you that opportunity to talk back. So what I want to talk to you about this morning is about the cuts that could well be coming to the welfare bill, notably the cost of health and disability benefits. The disability benefit claims amongst working age people are expected to rise by 250,000 each year until 2030, while just over 4.2 million adults will be claiming personal independence payments, PIP, over the same time frame, up from just 3 million today, or just 3 million. Universal credit for health reasons is also expected to climb from 2.1 million this year to 3.5 million by the end of the decade, so in just 5 years' time. It is, I mean, look, these numbers are eye-watering, and of course it's costing us an absolute fortune. It'll be £100 billion just on health and disability benefits by the end of this decade, in 5 years' time. So the question is, how do we cut it? I mean, some of the ideas are that you either lower, the two ideas are to lower the payments or to make it more difficult to get in the first place. So I guess really what I'd like to know is, you know, I've been told it's really difficult to get these payments now. But if they make it more difficult or set the bar higher or change the rules, I don't know what that will look like in the future. But a lot of people are saying, look, the fact that there are people quite early into their adult life in receipt of health and disability benefits is concerning, because these people have a whole lifetime ahead of them, and potentially a whole lifetime of being benefit claimants. Now, that's not sustainable. And there are those who may be on these benefits who say, just tax more. Well, I don't think that's fair on the taxpayer either, because we're paying the highest level of tax ever at the moment, and you can't keep asking us to pay for everything, although there's only us to pay for it. So the other option is cuts. So how do we cut these benefits while still protecting the vulnerable, those people with serious health conditions? My suspicion is they'll set the bar higher. That's what I think they'll do. I mean, they've already tried to do that before. In 2017, people deemed too unhealthy to work, but sufficiently healthy, I don't know where that line is, to engage in certain work-related activities qualified for £73 a week rather than £102 a week in employment and support allowance when that was a thing. The overhaul was designed to cut government spending by around £650 million a year. However, the OBR has since said the reforms largely backfired, because what it did, it encouraged people to go for bigger disability payments. This is the department that is being the most eyeballed, and there will be cuts. How do we do it? Can it be done? And could you survive without it? Listen, I know you can call me on 0344 499 1000, because you can also leave voice notes on that number. And here's one from Jess.
Hi Petrie, I thought I'd just share with you an experience I've had recently. So a bit of backstory, I am classed as limited capacity for work and work-related activity due to bipolar and severe mental health issues. I decided within about 6 months of being placed on that I was sick of not working, and decided to go back to work and create a cleaning company, which I work really hard at. I work 30 hours a week with 2 kids. And I have a meeting with Job Centre, which I have quite frequently, who enlightened me that I don't have to work for the next 5 years, and I could sit on my arse for the next 5 years and earn more money than I'd be earning now. And they were pretty much pushing me to that decision. So I'm really infuriated to hear all these statistics that we have about people not working and people on disability benefit being pushed into work, because I had completely the opposite situation when I went into my meeting, and I was basically pushed into not working. So funny that.
Wow. Jess, that's an amazing call. So you were basically signed off. They just said, no, you don't have to work. You can just sit on benefits. I mean, that is extraordinary. And well done you, by the way, for because it must be really boring not working. I mean, it must be. So well done for you for just, starting your own company and doing it. And I bet you feel better. And that is the thing about work. It's not just about work. It's not just about earning money. It's about being part of something, and it's about being around people, and it's about having structure to your day. And I think that that is an important issue about work. And I do believe that there are many people with mental health issues would benefit from that structure within the realms of what they are capable of doing. But I don't know how any government is going to satisfactorily support every single person with these conditions into work, because everybody needs an individual amount of help. One person might need very little, another person might need an enormous amount of support. So I don't know how they're going to do it. That's always what I look to is it's all very well gobbing off about stuff, but how do you actually do it? And how do you make sure that people are supported and people who want to work can get back into work? Well, not just want to work, but are capable of working, can actually get back into work. So that reforming the health and disability benefit system in the spring, that's what we're going to hear about, these reforms. It'll be in the spring. They're talking about introducing tougher fit note tests. Now, you're going to have to enlighten me on this. What is a fit note test? Can you give me a call and let me know? I don't know why it's called a fit note. Why it should be called a sick note? That is ridiculous. Anyway, a fit note. What is a fit note test? I'm sure we can look it up, but it'd be great to hear from you. 0344 499 1000 and text the word talk and your message to 87222. Chris is in Hereford. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. Well, I claim PIP, see, and I work, but the thing is, when I filled the form out, I had to have help filling it out because it's not an easy form to fill out.
I remember having to do one for my brother, and they keep asking the same question over and over again in different ways. It's just weird. Yeah.
And it's like a pamphlet. It's like a booklet.
Yeah,
it's
like huge.
A book. It's huge. And the thing is, I have a learning disability, so I'm on the lowest rate of PIP. So I honestly don't know what's going to happen if they're going to look at things like that sort of thing, because I need some financial help, but not a lot, because I don't work a lot of hours, sort of thing.
Could you work more hours, Chris?
No, I can't, because the thing is, I've got a number of health conditions. I've got heart condition, and I've got Graves' disease.
Oh yeah, a friend of mine's got that.
Yeah, so I am limited to work for that sort of thing. So I can't work. I basically can't work any more than certain hours, sort of thing.
But you're still getting out there and working.
Oh yeah, I still get out and working. I to be honest, I couldn't sit on my excuse my language, but I can't sit on my bum all day doing nothing because that's just, I've got to get out for my mental well-being, because I wouldn't like to sit at home doing nothing all day and claim benefits. I sort of think I do contribute to pay for my national insurance stamp.
But do you think, Chris, though, that, I mean, we're looking at the numbers here of the number of people at working age who are claiming these benefits. Do you think that everybody that's on them deserves to be on them?
Well, yeah, it's about need, isn't it? There's just people that are claiming these benefits don't really need it. They're sort of shirking the system, and I think that's what they want the government wants to look at. But people are claiming it, like, I would say not dishonestly, but they're like when they fill in the forms that they're just basically exaggerating their condition, sort of thing. And that's what they should be looking at, sort of thing. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's difficult though, isn't it? Because governments, what they like to do is turn us against each other, and there will be a lot of people going, yeah, work shy, shirkers. But I'm sure there are. I'm not naive. I'm absolutely sure there are people that are work shy liars, and refuse to work because they think they don't have to, but. The danger is that you throw the baby out with the bathwater, isn't it? That you then victimise people who genuinely do need that help.
Yeah, that's the question really, because you've got to be very careful when there's a lot of people out there that have disabilities and they need the support. They need the financial support to help them through their disability, because a disability is not an illness. Basically, with my disability, I've got this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you're not going to suddenly get better from this.
No, you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
So with my learning disability, I've had it all my life. And I've only just started claiming in the last 4 or 5 years since my parents died. Because my parents, when I was a kid, the doctors were worried about me because there were signs that I had this disability. Mum and Dad didn't want to like brand me as disabled, so I've only just started to claim it. So it's progressively got worse, sort of thing. So, but it's going to be there with my rest of my life, sort of thing. So it's not going to get better. The disability going to get better.
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because they might just look at you and go, "No, you can do more hours." You are capable of doing another half a day or whatever. Does this worry you? Does it frighten you that you might be pushed into doing something you actually feel you absolutely can't do?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm sort of worried about, sort of thing. Is I said, there is a time that basically I don't want to go with my heart condition. I don't want to go to the doctors and then find out that they told me I can't work anymore because of my heart condition. It gets worse or something like that. And because I can't work, that's the worry for me, sort of thing. But it just really is a bit scary what they're going to do, sort of thing. And,
well, listen, I don't want to scare you. I don't want to scare anybody with this. But this is unlikely to happen quickly. Whatever happens, it won't be quick. It'll have to go in front of the House. If there's any fundamental changes to benefit system, that is not something that Rachel Reeves can just arbitrarily decide to do. So it'll have to go. It'll have to be unpicked. It'll have to be talked about. The OBR will have to look at it to see if there are actually any savings to be made by this. Whether it will have the reverse effect, whether it will cost the NHS more. This will take a while. So I don't want you to think, oh my God, this is suddenly going to happen in March. It isn't. The direction of travel might be announced in March, but I don't want you to panic. All right?
No. All right, thank you.
All right, don't you be worrying. Chris, thank you very much indeed. Kevin is in Lichfield. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, good evening. How are we all?
Good morning. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I just want to actually play a massive compliment to Chris there. He's now with a heart condition, still trying to work, and then having the fear of absolutely brilliant. We need more people like that in this country that just gives everything. But I want to actually bring up tonight a little unknown tax that came through the budget, which is called something called asset disposal relief. It's a little tax that was increased in the budget that's going to go up marginally over the next 6-12 months. That is an absolute stealth tax on business owners that I personally call them Thatcher's children. There's no better word for it, but they were all encouraged to start their own businesses, build enterprise, employ people. And this is a stealth tax this government's now bringing in that's going to cost
it's going up to 28. It's going up to 28%, isn't it, at the higher level?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know where I saw that.
just give you some background myself. I work in corporate finance. I assist in helping people sell their businesses. We can't find buyers for them.
No.
And then these guys are now desperate to get out. We've never been busier. We have never been busier to get out, but we can't find the new dawn of entrepreneurs to buy these businesses and take them on. Finance is getting more expensive, so there's less people.
I mean, my understanding is it's going up. Is it from 23% to 28%? Somewhere of that region, isn't it, at the higher end? And up to 17% at the lower end, at the cheaper end. But still, like you said, this is a little...
spot on.
Oh, good.
Well researched. That's fantastic.
I just remember these things. I don't know how my brain works that way. but yeah. So this is one of these sneaky stealth taxes that people think, oh, it's only the rich that are paying. But it isn't.
Guys,
I know.
These are SME owners. These are small to medium-sized enterprises that give blood, sweat, and tears to their livelihoods. And you know, and when we come to assisting these guys and finding buyers, we can't put the money that they think they're ready for their retirement. So they're now working into their 60s, into their 70s, because they need to build up their business to a point where when there's a lack of buyers, the money's not there to do it. And when the money becomes so expensive to buy them, quite frankly, buying a business in an SME, it's like buying a house. You'll only ever buy it for a bank will borrow the money for, unless it's something that's got its own unique kind of element to it. And it's a terrible tax. And I spend all my day speaking to directors and managers who literally give blood, sweat and tears to their businesses, and they think it's enough to retire, and it's not.
And it's not, because they're losing nearly a third of it almost straight away.
Yeah, and people go,
wow.
They're own their own business, they're millionaires. No, not every business owner is.
No.
People need to get out this mindset that every business owner is a millionaire. They're not. Some of these
But it's like the farmers, isn't it? It's the same with them. People go, oh, they're all rich, you know. And it's like, they're not. They're not.
Living in rural Lichfield, we had I just go slightly off topic. We had a beautiful farmers parade through our city centre in the beautiful city of Lichfield through Christmas. All the farmers came together. They raised tens of thousands of pounds for local charities. It's like, I can't understand how you can hate a farmer.
I don't know either, because all the food that they're donating to the homeless and to charities and things like that, and to these, you know, the places where people go to get, I can't remember what they're called now, where you go and food bank, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, they donate all the wonky carrots and things that they can't sell to the supermarkets and stuff like that.
These guys in Lichfield don't even donate the wonky ones, they donate the straight ones, the best flavoured ones. You know, these guys are the heart of our community. Yes, we're a city, we're a small city, but what these guys did, and there's still people on that march. There was one active guy that gave them grief, going to start saying, pay your taxes. You go, they are paying
they are.
They just want to protect their farms.
Honestly, what this government is doing, I've never seen a meaner bunch. And they're going after people that they think that the rest of us will go, oh, yeah, they're rich, we don't care. That's why they did it. You know, the whole idea that, oh, not all these pensioners need winter fuel. They're quite rich. They've got properties. They've got... And everybody else goes, yeah, pay... Well, we want that money back. And it's like, honestly, why are they doing this? Because all these people they're attacking are the middle classes. They're not. The super rich...
If you ever get the chance, I would love you to ask a senior politician, maybe a member of the cabinet, go, what's your definition of rich? Because at the moment, they must think everyone's rich. We're struggling. Everyone is struggling. I would love to hear their definition of what they think is bloody rich.
Well, Jeremy Corbyn set that limit at 70 grand.
That's hot. That's double of what the average person takes home.
But that's what makes you rich.
Farmer takes.
That's what he said makes you rich. Earning 70 grand a year.
London, so you know he's probably a bit biased, but we are in a.
But that doesn't make you rich. Doesn't make you rich anywhere. 70 grand. It doesn't. It really doesn't. You know, you've got mortgages to pay, you've got bills to pay, all of these things. I've never known a meaner government. And if they then now go after, health benefits and disability benefits,
the mind boggles. Why? Let's just cut some of the foreign aid budget or some of the foreign climate aid budget. We produce something like 1% of all the global emissions in this country. What are we doing?
I know.
So there was someone kind of great. It might have been Mike Graham that said that the college kids are in charge of
Yeah, they all think that because they want to leave their mark on the world. You know, Ed Miliband, Mr. Nobody, wants everybody to go. He wants to be in the history books. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about anything. I just think they just want to be remembered for something.
Yeah, in government, the best way you can leave your mark is to leave the country in a better state than you leave it. Unfortunately, there's been multiple governments in my lifetime. I'm 40 next week, funny enough. I don't think there's been any government in my lifetime that's left me better off when they took office.
No, because I think the one unifying thing is that none of them give a damn about us, frankly.
In that case, we keep flying for ourselves. We do our best, look after one another. Look after your people, just like your previous caller that's working his backside off as a disabled lad, trying to make ends meet, provide for his families.
And let's not turn on each other, because that's what they want us to do. That is exactly what they want us to do. It's fascinating to talk to you. It's really interesting to hear about these business owners, because everybody again goes, "Oh, business owners, they got loads." Really interesting, Kevin. I hope you call again.
Sorry, just one last. These are grafters, just like everyone else.
I know.
These guys sometimes, when times are bad, they take less than minimum wage, just like the farmers do. Let's just stop punching the SMEs. Let them have the retirement they were promised. Stop moving the goalposts. Or in what they're doing now is removing the goalposts altogether. It's not fair. And someone big up reform. They are finally giving people an option, and there's a glimpse of hope. That's all I can say.
Well, let's hope that what you're hoping for is what it turns out to be. People hoped for a Labour government for better times. That did nothing. Kevin, brilliant call. Thank you very much indeed. Join in the conversation. Pick up the phone 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your site.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here until 1 o'clock. And we're talking about the cuts that are imminent to public spending, and the fact that Rachel Reeves is eyeing up the massive amount of money that is being spent on health and disability benefits. It is eye-watering. It is set to become £100 billion a year. That's roughly half the cost of the NHS, right? Just a bit over, actually. But you've got universal credit as well. You've got of the budget, the watchdog predicts 75.7 billion will be spent on working age and a further 7.2 billion on children. That's being fueled by a surge in payments related to autism and ADHD. These vast sums encapsulate the cost of Britain's mental health crisis. A record 500,000 adults are now claiming PIP for anxiety and depression, according to official data, while around 2/3 of people who access universal credit for health reasons cite mental health as a reason. So Tony Blair, who will not shut his gob, has echoed comments by Mel Stride, the shadow chancellor, that too many people are labelling normal challenges in life as mental health issues. Whilst they may agree with that, I don't want to hear it from Tony Blair. I just wish he'd go away and sit on his vast mountains of cash. So we're spending vastly more on mental health now than we did a few years ago, says Blair, and it's hard to see what the objective reasons for that are. Oh, he's a kind, sharing kind of man. More young people are also giving up on work, with a number of 16 to 24-year-olds either in work or education, neither in work or education, now close to 1 million. All the evidence suggests that the longer you're out of work and in receipt of these benefits, the harder it is to go back to work. The fact that there are people quite early into their adult life in receipt of health and disability benefits is concerning, because these people have a whole lifetime ahead of them. It's bad for their living standards and well-being to be out of work at such a crucial time, so I think we should definitely be thinking of how we can support those people more. So how do you support somebody back into work? Is it a carrot or a stick? And I don't know how they're going to do this supporting, because everybody needs different levels of support. For my MS, I need some support here, but it's very different to somebody else who may have a worse condition than me, or a less. It's different for everybody. For every single person, it must be. So if you're trying to entice people to go back into work without bludgeoning them with that stick and hitting their hands when they reach out for benefit help, how do you do that? It's too individual. There's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. At the moment, the predictions are that it'll either be a cut in payments, so a reduction in the amount of money that is given out overall, or it will be to make it more difficult to get onto these benefits in the first place. So I do want to hear from you if you know, how difficult is it to get onto these benefits in the first place? There's a lot about this I just don't understand. So if you could pick up the phone and tell me, I would appreciate it. 03444 991 1000. Daz, what a name that is. Hi, Daz, new caller from Northumberland. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, Daz. What do you make of these cuts that are coming down the pipes?
It's not about the cuts, it's about the claims, really. I mean, the cuts is... you're talking about the claimants. Now, a lot of the claimants and a lot of the PIP and all this is a lot to do with the immigration, the immigrants. So when they come over, they and the families, and you start claiming. So now these figures aren't just based on people born in the UK who actually got disabilities. It's about people who are automatically coming in, as we're doing, and putting them in hotels and giving this and that and so that.
Well, no, just let me stop you there, because illegal migrants are not entitled to any benefits, so they're not entitled to these. I thought you were talking about... Now, look, what is potentially happening is with the legal migration, and they're bringing over their elderly parents or, members of their family that may have acute health issues, and they would be the ones that would be able to claim these benefits. The illegal ones can't. The ones coming over on boats are not entitled.
Okay. So the legal ones. The legal ones. So that means, yes, the legal ones come in, they bring all the families over, so all the benefit claims go up, and it's not us.
Oh, hello, Daz? Daz? I think we've lost think we've lost Daz. His line dropped out there. You could hear it going. Yeah, look, there's no question whatsoever that the legal migration into this country, which is in vast numbers, is clearly adding to the benefits bill. We know that. It is absolutely obvious, because it may not be the person who got the visa who came over to work, although after a certain amount of time it could well be, but it might be their family members that they bring with them that make these claims for disability or unemployment or things like that. So there's no question. I agree with you completely that there will be some pressure put with nearly 1 million migrants a year coming over. Of course, that's going to put pressure on the benefit system. But yeah, let me say again that the ones that you referred to in the first instance, they're not entitled. So that's that. Have I taken a break here? No, I haven't, which is why you're sitting back. It is time for a quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and we're talking about, well, basically about Rachel from Accounts, Rachel Reeves, a chancellor who has run out of money. So it seems that in March, I think she said it was in March, to be fair, in the spring, she's going to come to us with a mini budget. But we're not allowed to call it a mini budget. We've got to call it a mini fiscal event. Because she promised there wouldn't be any more than one budget a year, and that was in October. Now, running out of money is a disaster, isn't it, already, when we've just had that budget. And also, inflation is on the rise again, and all of those other things. So the consumer confidence is down, business confidence is down, growth is unlikely at any good pace. All of those things are a problem. So that leaves Rachel Reeves with a problem, an issue. She said she's not going to borrow any more money. She's not going to change. She's going to stick to her fiscal rules, although she's already bent one extremely hard. But she's saying, we're going to do it this way. I'm going to keep a grip on it all. The only two levers she has left to pull to get extra money, and you know it as well as I know it, is tax or cuts. Now, they said they won't return to austerity. But if you're cutting public departments, that is a return to austerity. They accused the Tories of it. They said to the Tories, look, you know, you've deprived these departments of extra money. That is austerity. That is austerity. That is, as I kept saying it over and over. So now they're looking at cutting departments, and some of the big departments. So one of the biggest departments with the hugest, most massive budget is that of welfare. Now, the NHS budget is ring-fenced, that's sort of safe. Defence budget will just peter away to nothing. There's not very much else. Home Office, they were hoping to make savings based on lower illegal migration. Yeah, so they're not making those savings. So they need more money, and they're going to have to come after the one with the biggest expenditure, and that is welfare. And that looks like the health and disability benefits will be the ones that they try to adjust so they can rake back some much needed money so they don't have to borrow more. That's basically what it is. And we know that this department is being eyeballed because everybody's talking about it. So definitely in the corridors of power, because it's the fattest, right? It's loads of money being spent there. So what do we do about this health and disability benefit bill? What they're suggesting is that they'd like to help support those people that are on these benefits into work. But what the heck does that look like? I mean, everybody's needs are different. You're not telling me they're going to have a bespoke service for millions of people who are currently claiming these benefits, because it ain't going to happen. I want to know how you feel about this. I want to know if you support tax hikes or cuts. And if you do support the cuts, how do we do that whilst making sure that we still protect the vulnerable and we still protect those people who need our support, whilst making sure that those that can work do work? There's the question. Ben is in Stanwell. Morning, Ben.
Hi, Petrie. I used to follow you on LBC.
The name that should never be mentioned on Twitter.
Oh, sorry.
That's
sorry.
all right. Don't worry about it. I find it funny.
No, because you're on TV. No, I just transferred over from tax credits to universal credits, and it was an absolute nightmare sorting everything out. Why they can't do it through your national insurance number, which I've had since I was 16. I'm 53 now.
Because they want to make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
oh
of
yeah. But I had the social, because I've got social workers involved, because I've had issues at home, like personal issues. But they tried to help me, and even they had trouble. You get timed out. So basically, I've gone into full-time work, which I've always been in work, and sometimes like part-time work. But I take a day off, go down the job centre, and basically they freeze everything. And I'm now on universal credits, and it works out. I can't even work out all the paperwork that's come through, but I'm about £400 a month down now.
Really?
From all that, yeah.
So is this because they're trying to get everybody off a range of benefits and all onto universal credit? So it was your turn to move on.
Yeah. It took a bit, but they just done it before Christmas. But fortunately, I managed to get through, because I couldn't do it online, and the social workers getting the time out and all that. I did get through quite quickly, and they did give me a bridging loan. But for some reason, I'm like £400 a month down now, and they backdated all the benefits I was getting for help with the council tax.
But how do you manage when they freeze it? I mean, because it's all of these things.
They froze it, but luckily I had some friends who lent me some money, and they did do a little bridging loan, but you pay it back. But it is interest-free, which is good. So you pay it back over 2 years. Interest-free, but I'm still in trouble now because they backdated. They say I owe this, owe that, because of I don't know. I don't understand it really.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Why it should, like you said, it should be simple. It should require no form filling.
So you say my national insurance number since you were 16. Why you got to go through that again? And why do I have to take a day off work, go down a job centre, have an interview, and fill out all this other paper? Why can't I just simple transfer over? And basically, I don't know.
I mean, it is a nightmare, and I think this is part of the problem, is that this beast that is the welfare system, it just doesn't work properly. And people stay on benefits because at least they're secure.
I'm in full-time work.
Yeah. So you get a top-up, basically. So your top-up...
Yeah, like a top-up,
right.
But now it's £400 down. Around that. But anyway, I'm going to show the paperwork to the show, because I'm dyslexic, and the way they work it out, you just see different figures, this, that, you're going to get that. Oh.
I mean, you lose the will to live. I can't fill in forms anyway for love nor money. I get stressed by forms.
And it times out.
Yeah.
You get a certain time, so...
Do you?
Yeah, you only get 2 or 3 documents to send through, and even the social worker said this is stupid, because I was sending her a code, because she done it on my behalf, and then I had to send her a code back, and then anyway. But I just thought.
No, go back. That can't be right that you're down that much. Go back and just try and get somebody to help you with that. But listen, if it makes you feel any better, I am hopeless with forms. I can't. I go form blind. I just can't do it. I just panic. I'm no good. I always put my name in the wrong place, and I'm terrible with them. So you're not alone. You're not alone. But it doesn't sound right that you're down that sort of money, Ben. Go back and get some advice on that. I'm going to take a really quick break here, but I will be back in just a moment to talk to Dan, who's in Bournemouth.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. So that gives us about 15 minutes together. Let's go straight away to Dan, who's another new caller in Bournemouth. Dan, good morning.
Hello there.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, and you.
Right, so tell me about what's going on with you and these welfare, health and disability benefits.
So I mean, myself and my wife, we both work full-time. I work 2 jobs. So basically, my wife had a prolapse disc to the point where now she's 38 and she has to walk with a Zimmer frame. So now we're waiting on the third surgery now. So what we decided to do, because my wife's quite independent, she had a car and it was a manual car, and we said, right, well, you can't drive that anymore, but she still needs to get about. One of the jobs I do, I go away for quite a while and they come back.
So she needs a car, yeah.
So she needs to get about to get our daughter to school and all the rest of it. So we got the PIP application, we filled it all out, sent it off. We got one back, a reply back saying, no, you're not entitled. So we appealed it and said, well, hold on a minute, I'm sure we are. And I think it's a points-based system and you need 12 points to be kind of eligible for it, and we were on 11. So we appealed it, and we were on the phone to the lady, and she basically said, well, can you plan a journey? And my wife was like, well, yeah, of course I can. She said, oh, are you anxious about, your condition? And basically it was all to do with mental health.
Wow.
Not her physical disability. Now, she has to get our daughter to put her knickers on sometimes, and, that's how bad it is. And then on the flip side to that, my younger brother, he was diagnosed with it was either autism or Asperger's or something like that when he was younger. He's now got a real good job in tech and £100,000 a year. He's decided that he took a ADHD online assessment thing, and it would come back to say, oh yes, you've got ADHD. And when I said to him, I don't think you have. I know people with ADHD. You can sit on your computer for hours and hours.
Yeah,
and hours
that doesn't sound right. Yeah.
You haven't got that, but it sits in with Asperger's or whatever. Whatever he was diagnosed with when he was younger. And he said, "Well, I've got this is going to make it even worse. I've got an appointment with my private healthcare, and I'm going to be assessed." So he now is in receipt of this £75 a week or whatever it is, PIP allowance for ADHD when he hasn't actually been diagnosed yet with ADHD, because you don't get the diagnosis for like 2 years. Now, surely we're wasting so much money on paying these payments for people that haven't been diagnosed. And I said to him, well, what happens if you don't get diagnosed? Do you have to pay that money back? He was like, no, it's all fine. And I said, well, you're on £100,000 a year.
Yeah, this is because I was just going to say this, because PIP is not related to what you earn. It is if you need extra support to carry out your normal daily life or your normal daily work or whatever, then you can apply for PIP. And I wonder if it should be means tested.
Well, I certainly think it should, because I said to him, what does this in...
What difference does it make to him? Why does he need
£75 a week do to you? And he said, well, it's, if I go down to the shops and forget something. And I thought, well, that's everyday life.
Yeah.
He said, if I've got something in the fridge or in the cupboard that's out of date and I need to order it quickly, I said, I've moved 5 times with my job with the same jar of pickles for the last 10 years.
Oh, you're like me, you are.
Every time I move, I go, I'll get rid of that. And it goes back in the cupboard, and I forget
back
about
in the
it
cupboard
again.
That'll be, come the zombie apocalypse, you'll be glad of that, Dan.
Yeah, well, this is it. But I just think the system is broken.
Yeah.
It's more for... I said to my wife, if you told them you get anxiety attacks, you can't go outside because you don't want people to see you with your Zimmer frame, and you can't plan a route now because all your confidence is gone, they'd be throwing money at us. But
do you know what? That is so depressing.
Activity.
You're absolutely right. You are 100% right. So this is what's happening, is that it's causing people to lie to get the top-ups, to get the extra money. And who was it? Your brother, did you say, or cousin? Or
my brother.
Your brother.
My brother's just bought a £400,000 house in the middle of Herefordshire. No problem whatsoever. The middle of nowhere.
And he's getting PIP.
And the £75 a week, I can guarantee, goes on his extra mortgage payment that he makes every year. So how does that benefit his life in any way whatsoever when he's on that amount of money?
God, that is outrageous.
I have to work 2 jobs so that my wife can get about, so we can get a new car. and I've got to work 2 jobs for it. I'm literally on my way back from my second job now, ready to start work tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock again.
Oh, Dan. Yeah, listen, I feel that anger for you, because it's people like your brother, I'm afraid, who go, well, it's there, I might as well have it. I'm entitled.
What's even funnier is we've got grandparents that have got a bit of money, and we were talking at Christmas about the winter fuel payments, and he said, yeah, right, they've got too much money, they shouldn't get it. And I said to him, well, hold on a minute, you get this £75 a week. He's this entitled generation, that's what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm entitled to it, I should get it.
Yeah. There's a lot of young people who think, I don't want to work, why should I work?
And well, the government make it too easy not to work.
Yeah.
That's what the be all and end all is. If you're in that cycle, like you said earlier, it is so easy just to stay in that cycle, because actually you're better off. I mean, my wife used to work for £1 an hour, it worked out, because we had to have childcare for our daughter.
Yeah.
So it turned out she worked for £1 an hour, and 20% of that was taken off of her by the government.
Yeah, and
so
she still did it.
80 pence an hour.
Do you know what, Dan? There are grafters, and there are people who never think about working. I'm a grafter. Thankfully, my son is a grafter. You know, my sister is a grafter. You know, there are people that just work and take great pride and joy in working.
It.
And that sense, Dan, that you have, that you're a working man, you're working hard for your family, and you're supporting the community, you're supporting society, and you're doing the right thing. That matters. When people don't share that value that you and I have, then it's impossible to understand why somebody on 100 grand a year would say, oh, I might as well have that, it's free. Because it isn't free, because you're paying for it and I'm paying for it. It's like, it's not free, mate. You don't need it. Don't have it.
It makes me even sicker that, I'm going to use my private healthcare to get diagnosed. I mean, that just sums it up, doesn't it? I mean, we often say that we're quite middle class because we have 2 cars, we have a nice life, but we have to work.
You have to work for it. Yeah.
And I just think that he's got this job and he's going, oh, I can get that benefit, I'll get that, oh, I can do that, I'll get that. But everyone else isn't allowed. My gran and granddad, who have, well, again, that's where I got my grafting from.
Yeah.
My gran and granddad that brought us up. Oh, no, you can't have a winter fuel payment. No.
And they've worked all their lives.
You're not allowed it.
Yeah. Now, Dan, you raise a brilliant point, a really exceptionally good point, and I wonder if that will be something that will change, because the idea that the PIP payments go to anybody, no matter what their income, is wrong. It shouldn't happen.
If you can go and you can tax me more money because I go out to work more, then why can't you do anything for the people that earn all that money anyway, and then they're still claiming these benefits? You know, I just, if you don't need that money, you don't need that money. £75 is a drop in the ocean to him. It's nothing.
Not even lunch, is it?
He probably pays more than that every month for his private healthcare.
That actually makes me really cross.
It's bad, isn't it? But ultimately, that's the system. Easy they've made it.
Yeah. And yet your lovely wife, who's having terrible issues, you know, can't get the money that she would need, which would actually help her with her daily life. It just seems to be so totally wrong.
Yeah. Well, this second job now, this is paying for, because I've watched her suffer for so long.
Oh, bless you.
This money is now to put her through private so she can have the surgery that she needs. Because we've been waiting 3 years for this third surgery.
What a lovely husband.
I've been working for the last 3 years to save up the money, and we're nearly there. We've got a consultation in 2 weeks, and then that's it. Pay the money, away she goes.
Oh, bless your heart. What a lovely man. Honestly, you are. She's lucky. She's lucky to have you.
Well, you tell her that when she wants stuff.
Well, listen, Dan, let me know how it goes, will you? Will you call back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, no problem.
Genuinely, I want to know what happens.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, send my love to her, won't you?
Thanks a lot, yeah.
Dan, take care, thank you. New caller, Dan, there from Bournemouth. That is annoying, isn't it? That PIP isn't to do with what you earn. It's just like his brother on 100 grand going, I might as well have it. I've self-diagnosed ADHD, I'm going to have 75 quid a week. It's just that for me is fundamentally wrong. It's just wrong. That's not what benefits were designed to be for. They weren't designed for the rich to top up or buy themselves a lovely, bunch of flowers a week or whatever flowers cost now. Chris is in London. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Petrie.
How you doing?
I'm good, but first of all, have you got a seatbelt on that chair of yours?
Uh-oh, why? What are you going to say?
Well, I'm going to straighten you out about Pips.
Go on, then.
Before I tell you about myself and my own position, I've been screaming about this since 2022.
Right.
The gravy train of immigration lawyers came up with the idea, because Pips is outside of the normal social benefits. Immigrants can't claim benefits.
Mm-hmm.
All the illegal immigrants that are landing at the moment are claiming Pips because they've escaped from a war zone or persecution, and they're getting up to £150 a week each.
But they're not entitled to benefits of any kind.
No, Pips is outside of that. Pips is outside of that. That's what people don't understand.
Well, I know that Pips are treated differently, but my understanding was they're not entitled to draw on any public funds.
No, Pips sits outside of that, Petrie. You can look it up, research it, get Gabriella, lovely lady.
She is lovely. Yeah.
It's outside of that, and I've been screaming about it since 2022. Anyway, let me tell you about myself.
I'm supposed to look at the screen. There's nothing on the screen.
Okay.
Press it through. But she's just done that. No, I've got nothing on that screen.
Well, look,
right, hang on a second. Okay, so to receive PIP, you need to be a British or Irish citizen and or have valid immigration status that allows you to claim on public funds. No illegal immigrants can claim personal independent payments.
Well, when they get right to stay, which they just clear, once
they become, then they're not illegal